A massive bear with razor-sharp claws lunges at a guy who's absolutely losing it, screaming for the beast to stay back while our main character just watches the whole thing go down from a distance. Kusaka always thought he was just a regular dude until this very moment. He's dying to jump in and help the guy. But honestly, there's no way he's... Our MC has always thought firefighters were the coolest people on the planet. To him, they were basically real-life superheroes who saved everyone. He used to dream of being one of them, but Pusaka finally snaps out of it and starts asking where he is, since he was just on the last train home after a super long shift at work. A glowing screen pops up out of nowhere saying he's been summoned to another world, and he's given 3 choices for who he wants to be in this new life. Our guy thought that was a super weird question and wondered if he was just dreaming, so he nervously scratched his chin. He doesn't see himself as some legendary hero. He's definitely not a genius sage, and if he sides with the Demon Lord, the whole world is gonna hunt him down. So, our guy really wasn't feeling this ending, so he decided to just ditch both choices entirely. Kusaka starts freaking out as the system reveals he actually picked the secret Choose Nothing option, which is about to grant him some seriously insane powers. His journey to the world of Mariamana Acha finally kicked off. Now, Kusaka Kobe was totally stacked with blessings from spirits and gods. Even Ishii had no idea what was going. After a bit, he finally snaps his eyes open to see the bright blue sky and green leaves. But he has to shield his face because the sun is way too blinding. He just stood there frozen, trying to wrap his head around where he was and what was even going on. He looked around and touched the leaves, realizing this felt way too real to be just a dream. He spotted birds soaring through the sky and started getting suspicious, wondering if he really ended up in a... He dug through his pockets, checking for his phone, wallet, and some napkins, but that was literally all he had. Now he's stuck in the middle of this forest with nothing else. What? Another status window popped up in his face, showing off his name, level, skills, and every single detail about his character. This totally caught him off guard, so he checked his status and realized everything is basically powered by mana, which is sitting at a solid 1,000 right now. Kusaka thought this whole thing felt just like a video game, and honestly, that made it way more exciting. Our guy realized just how much that full help skill was carrying him, so he decided to open his menu and check out every single ability he had. He agreed to go full power so he could load his skills instantly, and finally have the freedom to use them however he wanted. It felt like a massive bolt of lightning just shot through his entire body. He was completely dazed and had no idea what just happened. The system told him the download was done and even... Kusaka feels a weird power rushing into his head, and now he's totally ready to give the item box a shot. He tapped the tree he'd picked out and then chose exactly where he wanted to stash it. The tree he hit first started to fade away. Then a glowing magic seal flashed underneath it before the whole thing just vanished into thin air. His inventory screen popped back up, and seeing that cypress tree sitting in his item list made him realize just how handy this system really was. Now for the harvesting. It looks like he can turn those demon corpses into food, or even crafting materials. He ripped that tree apart and scored 5 massive cypress logs from it. Next up is the creation skill, and he couldn't believe he actually scored such an awesome power. He can use it to turn a single cypress log into 5 sticks, and honestly, it's super cool. So he finally decides to just go for it, firing up his creation skill to pull those items right out of the box. He's just holding a basic cypress stick, but once the system drops the stats, Kusaka realizes this thing is actually insane. Suddenly, the system pings. His crafting skill just hit rank 2 thanks to all the XP he got from those new recipes. He figured out that adding new recipes gives him free XP to boost his rank, which is honestly a total game changer. Then it hit him that he could actually switch modes, and as the screen in front of him vanished, everything finally clicked. He's checking out all the wild stuff his head can do, but he's got to be super careful while these info screens pop up right in his face. Kusaka decided to try making an axe, and just like that, he was already holding the brand new weapon in his hands. He was totally stoked to find out he had the appraisal skill, so he grabbed the axe to test it out since he'd never even touched a weapon before. He decided to test out his new dexterity skill, swinging his axe and delivering a massive hit to a nearby boulder. That massive boulder literally split in half like it was made of paper, and he was totally stunned that he did it with just a wooden axe. He's still got a ton of skills to master, and he's ready to soak up everything this world can teach him. He's also trying to max out his creation skill as much as possible, and with the sun still glaring down, he just rubs his forehead. He cleared out every single tree around him and finally leveled up his creation skill to rank 5. He just figured out 3 big rules for his crafting. He gets XP for every new recipe, hitting the limit ranks him up, but making the same old stuff won't give him any experience. After crafting 8 items, he noticed they all had totally different powers, like a wooden chair that literally weakens people, making him wonder how a piece of furniture could be so dangerous. Kusaka was feeling hyped, but he knew he had to find a town before dark so he wouldn't be stuck sleeping on the street, so he started trekking through the forest. He'd been walking for ages without getting tired at all, and he started wondering if he really owed it all to that rank 99 transmission skill. His transmission skill basically gives him super senses, making his eyes and ears way sharper than normal, and right then, he catches the sound of someone screaming. He bolted straight toward the screaming, wondering who it was and knowing he had to check it out for himself. He follows the noise and finds a guy on the ground by a cart, scrambling to escape an armored bear that's totally ready for a fight. This bear is a total monster you definitely shouldn't mess with, especially since this guy has zero combat skills. He's actually trying to take it down with a tiny dagger while his hands. Kusaka realized he wasn't ready to die. But then he started wondering if wanting to live was actually okay. He actually used to dream of being a firefighter, totally hyped up after seeing those guys in action. They saved people without even flinching, and he wanted to be just as cool and fearless as they were. But he's doing the total opposite right now, and it's starting to make our hero really freak out. If he doesn't move right now, that person is totally toast. So he's got to step up, because even though Kusaka quit his hero dream, he's actually got the skills. He knew he had to save the guy, so he grabbed his axe and charged straight at the bear while screaming his head off. Kusaka zipped around with crazy speed and sliced the bear's head clean off. The guy was completely blown away when our hero suddenly appeared. The bear's head landed on the ground right next to him. Kusaka didn't care about being a big-time hero. The guy clutched his chest in thanks and introduced himself as Chrome, a merchant who's super grateful for the help. Ku introduced himself, but he realized he needed to be totally honest, so the merchant would help him find where everyone lived without thinking he was some weirdo. Kusaka grabbed the bear's severed head while still holding his axe and grinned, telling him that he's clearly just a carpenter. The guy started sweating and said no, insisting he didn't look anything like a carpenter. He asked if he actually made that wooden axe himself, because dropping an armored bear in a single swing is absolutely wild. The guy saw Kusaka was totally lost and asked if he seriously had no clue what was going on. This armored bear is a total beast that can wreck an entire village in just one night. He's got a super tough body and heavy armor, so most attacks don't even leave a scratch on him. Right then, he realized he just smacked him with a basic wooden axe and shouted, "Wait, did I seriously just pull off something that insane?" The guy agreed and said they had to rush back before it got dark, even offering him a place to crash at his massive mansion in the city. Our main guy asked if his gear was in the cart, but Chrome explained that the guards and horses bailed during the attack, leaving him stuck with no way to move it until Kusaka realized he could lend a hand. He flashed a grin and told the guy to just toss everything into his item box, which totally caught Chrome off guard. The guy laid out his demands and asked if there was a problem, but our MC just smirked and told him everything was under control. Kusaka taps the carriage and uses his storage skill to make it vanish instantly, leaving the guy totally stunned as he calls out Kusaka's name. Chrome asks where he's from, but when our hero claims he's just a basic carpenter, Chrome fires back that if he's basic, then carpenters must be the ones running the entire world. Kusaka starts waving his arms and bragging about his mountain training, making the guy totally get the wrong idea. After a bit, they finally headed off to the city of Annan, and once they arrived, our main guy started gathering all the intel he could find. In this world, skills are split into two categories: talent and intelligence. You're stuck with what you get at birth, and there's no way to level them up. On top of that, these guys are totally clueless about levels, so they're completely shocked by how much stronger they get every time they take down a monster. Our guy's powers are totally broken, and while he's questioning if he's really that cracked, a wild idea suddenly hits him. He asked the merchant why he didn't hire bodyguards if monsters like that bear were out there, but the guy just said it's super rare to actually run into one. Chrome hired some adventurers to help, but the second they saw that armored bear, they totally freaked out and ran away. Our hero was totally fuming because he thought these guys just ditched their client, and man, this whole situation was getting seriously messed up. He usually only hires the best adventurers, but since they totally ditched him, he's gonna have a serious talk with the guild leader later. Our guy couldn't believe the guild let such reckless people tag along, but right as he was thinking how messed up that was, Chrome shouted that they'd finally reached the city. Kusaka was totally hyped, thinking he'd finally landed in a fantasy world where he might actually run into elves or half-humans. Right then, they spotted a crowd by the gate where some guys were freaking out about an armored bear and how they were barely surviving the fight. One guy said Chrome-san totally panicked before an armored bear finished him off, and the dark-haired dude was devastated that he wasn't strong enough to save him. Our hero realized those adventurers just ditched them and were lying to save their own necks, but right then, A soldier named Sandro spotted Chrome and called him out. The adventurers saw the guy and asked if he was actually still alive, so he told them, yeah, and explained that our MC saved his life, making the MC think the guy was finally helping him get into the city. Kusaka knew it was time to show them what he was really about, so he whipped out the bear's head and told everyone he was just a carpenter who took down that massive armored beast. The entire crowd scrambled away from him in fear, and after a soldier admitted he wasn't bluffing, our guy just let out a super smug laugh. The soldier turned to the adventurers and asked why they reported the merchant was dead, and the guys immediately started acting super suspicious. Chrome admits they didn't even fight that armored bear, they just ditched it and took off. The soldier realized he wasn't lying, so he turned to the adventurers and told them that since they left a man to die, they were all getting locked up for questioning. The dark-haired guy suddenly breaks loose, charges the merchant with his sword, and screams that this entire nightmare is all his fault. Our hero steps in and blocks the adventurer's attack with a chair, but the fighter just tells him to get out of his way. Right then, Kusaka disarmed the guy and smashed a chair over him, and as the adventurer hit the floor, our hero finally realized exactly how that weakness effect worked. The guy started yelling that he was actually pretty legit. His files showed he was a solid B-rank adventurer, and the paperwork even said he was a total beast with a sword. A little while later, Chrome and Kusaka are cruising through the city in a carriage, and Kusaka's totally drained from being interrogated all night. But honestly, that's what happens when you get into a brawl with an adventurer. It took forever, but he finally pulled it off, though he's still super worried about the guild after a soldier told him things have been a total mess lately. Now that San is backing him up, Chrome can finally live in the city in peace, and the guy even thanks him and tells him to go get some rest. They headed straight for the guy's massive mansion. Finally, he didn't have to stress about where he'd sleep tonight. Suddenly, the merchant shouted that they'd finally made. A massive mansion loomed right in front of him, and Kusaka realized this merchant was seriously loaded when a whole army of servants greeted them at the door. Chrome asks if he's coming inside, and our guy just scratches his head, asking if he's actually allowed to enter. Soon, they're served a massive feast, and he gets a room that looks like a 5-star hotel, so as he flops onto the sofa, he realizes he never wants to go back to his old world. Even if he could go back to Japan, he'd just be stuck at a boring desk job, and since his parents are gone and he's got no one to love, Ota, this world is a total upgrade, so let's travel the whole map once we find a place to crash tomorrow. The next morning, our hero shouts in total shock, asking Chrome if he can really stay on his land for a whole month, and Chrome tells him it's just a way to say thanks for saving his life. The guy explained that mountain life is a total struggle, and asked if he'd rather just vacation in the city at his company's place where the service is top tier. And honestly, Kusaka was super touched by the offer. Chrome isn't just some random merchant. He's actually the big boss of the massive Scarlet Company. And while he acts like a simple salesman to keep things chill, The guy claims the gods themselves set this whole thing up. And before he retires, he wants to thank Hanashran Khan and Levin Buber. But even though the MC acts like Prom turned to him and dropped some veteran advice, saying there's a massive difference between just being able to draw and actually having the skills to pull it off perfect. So many people out there use their powers for the wrong reasons, but our guy actually used his to save his own life, and he should be seriously proud of that. Kisaka was totally moved by those words and promised to never forget them. So the man told him that joining the Adventurers Guild was the best way to finally see the world. Prom hyped him up, saying his skills would land him a top rank and a guild card, so our MC agreed to sign up, even though this whole setup felt like something he'd heard a million times before. After a bit, our guy started sorting through his new loot and skills, and when the system asked if he wanted to gear up, he said yes, and his equipment swapped instantly. The next morning, Kusaka rolls up to the guild. As soon as he walks in, the whole place goes dead silent. Everyone starts whispering, wondering if that's actually an armored. Everyone wondered why the bear killer showed up and if he was hunting someone. But if he was, the place would already be a bloodbath, even though the MC just saw himself as a total rookie adventurer. He steps up to the table and the guy there is so shook he freezes, fakes being sick to get out of there, and lets a girl take his spot instead. Secretary Milia flashed a sweet smile and welcomed him to the Onan City Adventure Guild. She told Kusaka his armor looked totally sick and asked if there was any way she could help him out. Our MC tells them he wants to register as an adventurer and asks if he can actually join. The girl was totally stunned and asked him one more time if he was actually serious about signing up. She told him his gear looked so high level she thought he was a pro from another country, but he just admitted he's actually a total newbie. Mulia handed him a form to fill out, but told him he'd still have to pass a practical test right after. He realized paperwork is the same in any world, so he finished the forms and handed them to the girl, who looked them over and asked if he was seriously lying about being trash at fighting. Kusaka insisted he was dead serious about avoiding any drama, so Milia agreed to help if he could pass a quick test, asking him if he was ready to start immediately. After hearing that, our guy thought it over and asked what he was actually supposed to do for the practical exam. She tells him he's sparring an instructor, but today's test is run by a former A-rank pro who brags about being stronger than an armored bear, so this is definitely gonna. Our hero looks over his shoulder, wondering why all these adventurers are tailing him, while the crowd starts hyping up the next test and even placing bets. But he knows this definitely isn't. Melia says he doesn't even have to beat the instructor, and since he's got nothing to lose, she's totally convinced he's actually going to win. He swore he wouldn't let his guard down as he summoned a massive hammer, looking totally locked in. Kusaka was a huge fan of this cypress hammer, and even though it weighed over 100 kilos, he couldn't even feel the weight thanks to that insane force. He swung his hammer with insane power, sending a massive shockwave straight into the crowd. Everyone was hyped seeing him swing that massive hammer like it was nothing, but that's what you get from a bear killer, and it looks like the instructor might actually die today. A guy eventually walks onto the field, sets his glasses down, and tells the MC that even though he's tough for his age, he's about to learn there's always someone. Kusaka could tell this guy was a former adventurer and super strong, but he wasn't about to let himself get beaten. Milia said since they were both there, it was time to get moving, and while our guy was wondering what to do next, the man just grinned and told him the exam was starting and Kusaka closed his eyes and said he got it. Then he suddenly charged at the guy and yelled that he'd take the deal. Our hero swings his hammer with everything he's got, but the retired pro dodges it easily, and even though he keeps smashing everything in sight, the guy just keeps spinning out of the... Kusaka realized the guy was dodging massive swings with just tiny movements. That's the power of a high rank for you. If this keeps going, he's never gonna land. The old pro noticed that even though those swings were massive, they were full of openings. Dodging that giant hammer was a total nightmare, so our hero decided to switch up his strategy right then and... Kusaka landed a massive hit that snapped the guy's sword in half, leaving the whole crowd speechless. A chunk of the sword snapped off and went flying. Our hero was still gripping that massive hammer. Suddenly, Milia rushed over and told them that was enough. She grabbed Kusaki's hand and declared him the winner, leaving the crowd so stunned that she didn't even know what to say next. Everyone started hyping him up for wrecking the instructor and being a legit bear killer, which is why that fight was so insane. The instructor walked up and told him he lost, but said he fought like a total beast, and when our guy asked if he was salty, the teacher said he wasn't mad at all. The guy explains it's a special item box skill, admits the world is massive, and thanks him for the eye-opening experience before reaching out for a handshake that Kusaka accepts. The instructor gave him props for passing and told him he's definitely going to be a big deal later on. A little while later, Milia hands him his official guild card, and it's got all his personal info loaded right on it. Milia was totally blown away that he actually beat the instructor, admitting that he's seriously powerful. He tried to make an excuse but just ended up agreeing, secretly thinking his own skills did all the heavy lifting even though that was super disrespectful to his teacher. The girl told him to check out the guild rules, but offered to explain them herself if he had a minute since it'd be way easier to understand. She explains that there are 7 ranks for adventurers, and the guild levels up by smashing quests and building a solid track record. Milius laid out 3 big rules that are strictly off limits. Breaking them means a massive punishment, so he better stay in line. He totally agreed to the terms. Plus, his number 1 goal was hitting B rank. If he made it, he'd get paid for his injuries and have a sweet pension waiting for him when he retired. But then she asked if... He explained his side and thanked the guy for listening to her, and while Kusaka knew being B rank wouldn't hurt his future, he was totally focused on grinding his way up right now. Milia asks why he skipped the quest to find 50 Neo's herbs, telling him it's a mission he really needs to take. He was shocked by how fast that went, so he asked about the herbs again and she told him they're used for medicine all the time. The client is actually a healer who's always looking for help because these herbs only grow in places crawling with monsters, and the pay is a solid 400 comms for every single herb you. Our hero realized he could score 20,000 comms from this sweet job, but Amelia warned him that even though medicine is in high demand, it's still super dangerous and he needs to listen up. He should really do this on his first quest, but he needs a high-ranked pro to watch his back, and she'll even help him find a partner for totally free. Kusaka asked if it was really that easy to just go talk to someone, but she told him to trust her skills since her success rate is a perfect 100%. Our hero was just stoked that his start as an adventurer went so well, and he definitely needed to thank Chrome-san the next time they crossed paths. He hooked him up with a spot in the guild and 80,000 comms, telling him he was definitely going to be a top-tier adventurer. He was just planning to only buy stuff from his own company when Melia suddenly called out and apologized for being late. Kusaka turned to her and totally blushed, staring at her sunset red hair, those sparkling crimson eyes, and her actual dragon horns. A stunning girl suddenly appears and tells him she's super hyped to finally meet the legendary bear killer, introducing herself as Iris. Kusaka bowed and introduced himself to the girls, thanking them for showing up since Gamati was busy being a Manabnadrati, and Ahi was totally counting on their instructions. Iris was totally shocked by what Nakreus just did. The main guy realized that he was the one who made this happen. Kerbler. She told him to chill out since they were both adventurers, so he could just talk to her like a normal person. Kusaka said he got the point, but told them to call him out if he messed up any of the details. Melius is actually super gifted, but since he grew up in the mountains, he's totally clueless about the world. So she suggested he tag along since Iris doesn't really get along. Iris looked down and, with a super sad voice, said she finally understood why she was the one chosen. A little while later, the two of them head out to start the mission, and when she asks for the plan, he tells her they need to go find some info first. He thought back to how he'd always buy donet, gear, and get info in games, but out loud, he totally lied and said he knew nothing about the Nails herb. He asked for a map and some info on the nearby monsters, and she was totally down with that. She calls him a total rising star and says he'll crush it if he preps right, but he thinks she's overhyping him way too much. Iris told him that Milia's booklet had all the answers he was looking for, so he decided to check it out right then and there. At first, he thought it was just boring guild data, but the second half was a total goldmine that even showed exactly where to find all the local materials. He thinks it looks just like a guidebook, but Iris explains it was written by Amelia, a pro from the royal capital who's here to get this guild branch back in shape. Melia is totally crushing it at fixing the guild's messy management, and she might even get promoted to an executor at the main headquarters. He knew everyone saw him as a total natural, and when Iris asked if he wanted to know more, he told her he was all ears. Yast was the go-to shop for all the adventuring gear you'd need besides just weapons and armor. They finally hit up the shop, where he grabbed some rope, torches, a hulk hole, water jugs, and flint. He told her he'd pack everything into a box, but when Iris asked if there was enough room, Kusaka revealed he had a box with infinite space, leaving her totally stunned. Our MC realized a normal box is way too small, and the girl told him that basically nobody even uses that skill. She says there are tools that do her job way better, like the spear she keeps hidden inside this bag. Every pro adventurer has gear like this, but his item box is totally cracked, and he knows he's got way more broken cheats than just that. With his gear finally ready, he started wondering if he could actually pull this off, and soon enough, they arrived at the Kalo forest. Our hero scans the area. He's hunting everywhere for that nail grass. Suddenly, he spots exactly what he needs. Kusaka turns to Iris and asks her how he's supposed to. She warns him to be super careful pulling it out because those roots are everything, and if he yanks too hard, he'll totally wreck the stem and leaves. Our guy thought he'd have to dig it up, but then he realized there was a way better way to yank it out. Iris watched him and asked if he was doing okay, but he didn't even say a word and just drew a magic seal right under the plant. She squinted one eye and saw Kusaka had already ripped the grass right out of the dirt, roots and all. She calls him out by name and asks what he just did, but he just smirks and says he put the grass in a box to make gathering it way easier. Iris was totally blown away by how he used that skill, but he wasn't even listening anymore because he just spotted another herb. This grass looked totally different from the last batch, so he asked her what it was and why the leaves had all those weird spots. The girl explains it's actually Naulana grass, and even though it looks just like Noes, you can tell them apart by those red spots. Iris says this quest is super tricky because even though they grow far apart, it's way too easy to grab Neolana thinking you finally found the herb nails. They've got to wait in the woods until sunset to finish the quest, and our guy realizes it's finally time to bust out his special skill. He snapped his eyes open and triggered his God Eye skill, instantly spotting the herb they needed because it was glowing way brighter than everything else. He uses the eyes of the craftsman god, a crazy skill that finds exactly what he needs to crush this quest with zero effort. He crushed the whole quest in just 1 hour, snagging 50 nail herbs and sending them straight to his item box. Our MC says it's time to head back to the city, and when Ira acts shocked that they finished so fast, he just flexes that it's all thanks to his insane skills. She asks if the quest is finally over and if he has something to say, so he asks if he can get a little personal. He asked her what half-dragons were, so she explained that dragons were the strongest creatures to ever rule the world, and they're the direct descendants of those legendary beasts. These guys live way longer and are way tougher than any human, so when our MC admits he's super jealous of them, the girl totally freezes up and stares at him in pure shock. She said sorry and told him she'd never heard anything like that before. So when he asked if he was being weird, she explained that most people are actually just terrified of them. Our guy awkwardly scratches his head and says he's sorry, but she whips around and tells him to just drop it. Iris admitted that hearing him get jealous actually made her super happy, and she started blushing like crazy from the embarrassment. Back at the guild, Nelia is totally shocked they finished the quest so fast, but Kusaka tells her all 50 herbs are right there, so she starts counting them to make sure. 5 minutes later, she realized the grass was actually real and totally fresh, so she demanded to know how they even pulled it off. He breaks down exactly how his box skill works, and while Melia ignores his sketchy methods, she's the one stuck doing all the boring paperwork for the quest. She's only giving him 20,000 comms for now, but if they're cool with how he collects them, he might score an even bigger bonus. I told him that's exactly what a rising star would do, but he just played it cool and said it was pure luck. Then he thanked Mary Busbaba and officially cleared his first quest. He just pulled up to the temporary house Kromsign hooked him up with, ready to officially move into Shogutsute. He's standing right in front of this massive mansion, and there's just no way a normal adventurer is supposed to live somewhere this fancy. He heads into Lelo, gets decked out in a fresh suit, and says he's finally ready to go. His jaw dropped because he couldn't believe this room was actually his. It was literally bigger than his whole house in Japan. He's starving for dinner, but the prices here are totally insane, so he grabs a guidebook and flips right to the gourmet section. The food guide hyped up the Golden Bear, saying their grilled chicken is a total fan favorite. He crushed a legendary meal for 7,500 comms, and even though they tried to serve him wine, it was just a total hassle, so he decided that tomorrow he's going absolutely beast mode. The next day he heads straight to the Fados Mountains to take on a quest to thin out the lone wolves, and just like the name says, these guys only ever attack by themselves. Melia says the base pay is 20,000 combs plus 5,000 for every wolf he takes down, and our guy thinks this is a total steal. Just like he thought, a whole hour goes by without finding a single one, and all he ends up with is some naos grass, lilium plants, and a soggy mushroom. Using his creation skill, he whips up healing and detox potions, and when they ask him to fill their water bags with the stuff, he's totally down for it. After a while, he finally crafts a healing potion that fully restores your health and gives you a massive energy boost, making it basically just like a legendary elixir. He took a sip and it tasted just like mint, which totally reminded him of a sleeping pill company, so he got straight to work on the next potion. He downs a detox potion that nukes every drop of poison in his body, even if it tastes exactly like mouthwash. He took a sip, praying the rating wasn't a lie, and suddenly he felt amazing because it tasted just like some high-end grape juice. Out of nowhere, a lone wolf sneaks up behind him. He whips around to face it, and the beast starts growling like crazy. The wolf kept creeping closer with a low growl, and our hero realized the lone wolf he'd been waiting for was finally right in front of him. He flashed a smirk and said it was finally time to start as Kusaka pulled a sword right out of his bag. Right then, the wolf lunges straight at him. He triggers his agility skill to dodge the hit just in time. Then, he swings his sword and slices right through the beast. Kusaka couldn't believe how sharp his blade was, but he had to stop staring and start looting that monster because the wolf fur would definitely score him a bigger reward. Our guy figured he only had 4 more to go to finish the quest, and honestly, that wolf looked like a total pushover. He whips around to see a massive pack of wolves closing in, and just as he wonders why they aren't sticking together, the whole group lunges at him at once. Our guy immediately started slicing through them, hitting level 9 and unlocking a sweet new skill called Automatic Collection. He immediately fired up his auto-collect skill, which is super handy because it automatically grabs all those monster corpses for him. He smashed a whole pack of wolves in one swing, but there was no time to cheer since even more were popping up behind him, and Ki was totally losing his cool. Our guy was trying to figure out what was happening, wondering if he was really just a snack to them and how many more were hiding nearby. Inside his item box were 2,031 wolves, 2 healing potions, and 2 detox drinks. But he couldn't stop wondering why these lone wolves were even attacking in the... Something was seriously wrong here, and he was definitely reporting this to the guild later. But as he kept walking through the trees, another growl suddenly ripped through the air. Right in front of him stands a lone female wolf who loves being solo, only pairing up during her cycle before the male bails the second she's pregnant. Our hero was totally frozen in shock. He actually thought the wolves were the ones running away in fear. But now he realizes he's the one to blame for this entire disaster. He wasn't about to become a snack, so he whipped out his weapon and struck back at the wolf. He just hit level 16, boosting his health, mana, and strength, and he's already leveled up a bunch of times today. The higher his level goes, the crazier his skills get, so he's got to keep that grind going. After trekking for a bit, he finally hits a pond and stops, thinking it's time to take a quick breather. Right there by the water, he spotted a guy and a girl looking totally wiped out. Our guy realized he wasn't alone and asked if they were okay or if something went down, but they were totally freaked out at first. The guy asks if he's really the one who killed the bear, so Kusaka introduces himself and admits he's just an E rank. They told him to get off the mountain as fast as possible, but he just asked if a bear really attacked them. The guy says this monster is basically a massive black spider that's insanely huge and moves way too fast. The girl warned them that the black spider is a total monster who usually hides deep in the mountains, but he actually showed his face today. Kusaka thought they were just on a simple collection quest, but their luck totally tanked when a black spider showed up. And trust me, no beginner is walking away from a fight with that thing. So, she says they met during an adventurer rank-up. And get this, she's actually a half-dragon named Iris. The guys explained that this black spider is way beyond A rank and way scarier than the armored bear, so they really owe Iris big time. He remembered Iris saying half-dragons are way stronger than humans, but right now, he only cared about whether she was still alive. Kusaka asked if they remembered where that black spider was, so the guy pointed it out and told them they had to head that way right now. He stood his ground and told them he'd find Iris himself, so they should just turn around and head back. The dude starts complaining that it's way too dangerous, but our main character just tells him he isn't going to fight this one alone. She was totally down for them to go get help from the guild, but she asked them to watch over Iris while she was gone. The guy tried to talk him out of it, but the girl claimed the spirits were speaking to her and told them they had to let him go. He was totally caught off guard by her words, realizing he only knew these things from games and anime instead of how they actually worked in this world. She explains that spirits are invisible forces that control nature, and since she's a pro at guiding them, they actually reach out to her all the time. He admits their spiritual training has been a total lifesaver, but he's not going to stand in Kusak's way. He just warns him not to go overboard. She told him to stay safe and said the gods were totally on his side, while he couldn't stop thinking about Iris waiting for him. Kusaka bolted in the direction the guy pointed, triggering his armored bear skill and cranking up his hearing while on the move. He was praying he wasn't too late, and that she was still alive, because he just had to believe she was okay. Kusaka always thought he was a chill guy, but he clearly doesn't know himself because his heart is literally twitching right now. Suddenly, he heard a weird noise, froze in his tracks to see where it was coming from, and decided he had to go check it out. Kusaka pushed through the thick forest until he stumbled into a total wasteland. He could tell something massive had just gone on a crazy rampage there. He figured it had to be that giant black spider. He finally reached the spot, only to find Iris lying on the ground totally knocked out. Kusaka was just glad she was still breathing, but then he started panicking about where that spider pawbuck disappeared to, wondering if this whole thing was just a massive trap. Right then, a massive spider bursts out of the ground, and our MC realizes this is the legendary black spider. He knew the spider was crazy fast, magic-proof, and venomous, so he used the special bait from Iris he'd researched specifically for this monster. He had no clue the monster was about to pounce, but he managed to bolt right at the last second. That spider started spamming non-stop attacks, and while our hero tried his best to dodge, the pressure was just getting way too intense. Kusaka slashed at him over and over, but the guy barely had a scratch and just wouldn't go down. He looked back at the girl and realized he had to save her, so he had to take that monster down before it was too late. He was totally stuck in his head when the spider suddenly screamed and lunged, catching him off guard before he could even move. That hit sent him flying so far he leveled a whole tree, and he knew his armor's crazy stats were the only reason he was still alive. He accidentally dropped his sword mid-flight and realized he had to make a new one as fast as possible. Kusaka didn't even have a second to react before the spider blasted him with a super high-pressure web. Our guy knew he was in huge trouble because he was completely trapped and couldn't use any of his powers to break free. Kusaka knew biting this guy would be game over, so he locked in and started looking for an exit. Suddenly, a genius plan hit him. He could escape if he just shoved the tree into a box like he did before. A blinding flash of light suddenly went off, and the spider was left totally confused because our hero and the tree had completely vanished. Kusaka finally got some distance from the monster and managed to rip the web off while he was still flying through the air. He remembered he could suck anything he touched into his box, so he warped the entire tree and the thread right inside. Kusaka finally grabbed his sword back, but he still needed a way to take down that spider until he spotted Iris's spear. He grabbed both weapons, asked the girl to lend him her power, and charged straight at the monster. Kusaka slashed him a bunch of times, but then he realized his spear was way easier to swing, and that he had way more than just a sword up his sleeve. He gripped the spear tight and lunged at the monster, stabbing it so hard the spider started screaming as blood sprayed everywhere. Our hero lands a bunch of heavy hits that leave the monster bleeding everywhere, Then he leaps off the spider's back and lands on the ground. Just a second ago he felt totally hopeless because he couldn't use his real strength, but then the monster looked at him and suddenly started sprinting away. Our guy wasn't letting him get away, so he chased him down, jammed Iris's spear straight into his head, and then leaped into the air to slash him with his sword. Our guy sliced the beast right down the middle, sending the spider flying in 2 pieces as Kusaka stood up and finally let out a huge sigh. The system popped up to show he hit level 24, boosting his health, mana, and stats, and since he met all the requirements, he just unlocked a sick new automap skill. He checks out the map and thinks it's awesome to have a guide for a whole new world, but he knows that can wait because he's gotta go save the girl. He sprinted over to her as fast as he could. She was still alive, but she was barely even breathing. He had to fix her up before it was too late. Kusaka grabbed. A bit later, the potion finally kicks in, and he just freezes while staring at her, praying that this whole thing actually works. Suddenly, the girl's wounds start closing up on their own. Every single scratch and bruise just vanishes from her skin. She finally wakes up and snaps her eyes open. Iris spots him and shouts his name, and he yells her name back with a huge smile, but she screams for him to get out of there because a creepy black spider is on the... Kusaka realized she was a total sweetheart for worrying about others while she was in such a mess, so he straight up asked her how she was actually feeling. Iris said her legs just wouldn't move when she tried to end her life, and that's when our MC realized the black spider's poison was already taking over. He snatched a potion from his box, told her to drink up, and started pouring it down her throat until her eyes suddenly shot wide open. He asks if she can finally speak, and she's totally blown away by how good she feels, wondering if that deadly poison is actually gone for good. Iris thanked him for the save and said she totally owed him. Then Kusaka asked if she was free later. She told him she could totally make some time for him, so he immediately asked if she wanted to grab lunch, and she just winked while teasing him about whether he was finally asking her out on. Iris stood up and tried to play it off as a joke to cheer everyone up, but since that didn't work, she suggested heading back to the city, only to suddenly wobble and start falling over. She apologized for feeling sick again, but her face was turning totally red as she said it. He immediately tossed her onto his back and hiked through the woods while Iris talked about how he totally crushed that black spider and the armored bear. He did all that totally alone, and when she asked if he was scared, Kusaka just said he was way too focused on protecting her to even think about it. She said she totally got it, but she was blushing like crazy. He asked if she was doing okay. She told him she was totally fine. She just really wanted to say thanks. They finally made it to the guild, and he stepped inside with Iris still on his back as the guys from earlier rushed over to greet him. They asked if he'd finally crushed that black spider, and after seeing everyone was totally safe, Melia gave him a huge smile and told him he did an awesome job on the quest. She asks if he wants to eat or take a bath, but he tells her he's got to finish the quest first. A bit later, they're back at the Adventure Guild office, and before Melia hears the quest report, she tells him she's going to share a massive secret. She flashes her guild ID, and one look at it tells our guy that something is seriously wrong. Kusaka realized she was the guild leader's assistant, but she just flashed a smile and told him the boss was out on a business trip. Our MC is totally shocked she's a high-ranking boss and asks why she's still working the front desk, but she just says they're so short-staffed that she has to help out. Kusaka was totally blown away because he never expected her to be such a high-ranking big shot. Melia told them to cut the small talk and get to the point because she had some massive news to drop. She bowed low and thanked him for taking out the black spider, knowing everyone would have been toast if he hadn't stepped up. She gave him a warm smile and said the whole guild was super thankful for his help. He was totally stunned when Melia told him to drop the formal act and spill every single detail about his epic adventure. Kusaka finally put the pieces together, and since it was a wild ride, he started spilling everything that happened to him after he walked away from the guild. He even talked about how he ran into a pack of lone wolves. Melia told them they should definitely keep their distance, and she's going to report the whole thing to the guild headquarters. Her jaw dropped when she checked his system window and saw he actually took down 2,031 wolves all by himself. She covered her mouth in shock, asking if he was actually a messenger from God, while he scrambled to explain who he really was. Our hero figured the talk went perfectly since those two already gave the guild a heads up about the black spider. Melia asks him how he fought off that black spider, especially since there's literally no cure for its poison right now. He told her he finished making the potion and handed it to the guild so they could start pumping out a ton of them. Tomorrow, the big bosses are meeting to talk about his rank up because Melia told them he totally crushed that black spider and the armored bear, so he definitely deserves some major credit. Kusaka gets a massive bonus for taking down monsters way stronger than him, and that black spider is worth a cool 5 million comms. He was totally shocked and asked if it was too much, but she told him it usually takes a whole squad to hunt a black spider and split the loot. As they were heading toward the city, they ran into a group of adventurers who were just super relieved to see they were actually safe. Our guy was freaking out asking about Iris because she literally put her life on the line to save someone. Amelia flashed a smile and told him she was about to get a huge payout because the guild always hooks people up for stuff like this. She's turning in her report to finish the quest. Right then, our hero is heading downstairs. He bumps right into the instructor he fought before. The guy tells him it's been... San says he's heard all about Gaze soloing that black spider, calling him a total 1 in a million talent, but Kusaka thinks he's overhyping him way too much. The man asked if he was free, and when he said he was just heading to the tavern for dinner, Sun was totally hyped to hear it. A little while later, they finally hit the tavern, and the guy yelled out for everyone to come meet the star of the show. The restaurant was totally packed, and everyone started losing it, shouting that they were waiting for him and debating if he was the bear killer or the spider killer. He turned bright red and gave a huge grin, thinking that this city already made him feel like he totally belonged. Right at 11 p.m., he turns around to see Iris walking into the tavern and asks her if she's finally awake. Every eye in the tavern was suddenly on her, making our MC wonder if people seriously hated half-dragons this much and if there was anything he could do to help. Kusaka sprints over to the guy he met earlier and tells him to get moving because Iris is finally here, and when he asks if she's the one who saved him from that, he called out to Iris right away, and then both of them gave a deep bow to say thanks for everything today. Her jaw drops at what they're saying, and then the MC joins in to thank her for the day. He hands her a drink to chill with, then turns around to give a shout. Kusaka says he's not the only hero today, because Iris is actually fighting that black spider all by herself just so these two can escape. He just grinned and raised his glass to her bravery, while the girl next to him stood there totally stunned. The whole restaurant raised their glasses to her, and Kusaka really hoped this meant someone would finally give her a chance. Our MC finally got the hang of living there, and after surviving a few small scraps, he actually landed his first big promotion. He shot straight from F rank to D rank, and the girl was totally hyped to tell him he just set the record for the fastest promotion ever. To hit C rank, he can't just slay monsters and grab loot. He's also got to grind city quests by helping the locals, though simple trading won't count. Today's quest is to be Kiknamate's assistant. The guy tells him he just needs to get the job done. Kusaka actually considers wearing an apron, even though he grabs a knife, and with that lone wolf apron on, he looks like a master chef with super clean hands and fresh clothes. He's hanging out with Okami and San, who's totally terrifying when she's mad, plus this adventurous girl who's desperate to marry into his family, all while he realizes he never even cooked for himself back in Japan. He starts chopping everything up at lightning speed, and with his insane skills, there's nothing this guy can't cook. He whipped up 2 sandwiches for lunch. The guy told him he was seriously talented, and now he's even getting a sweet bonus for the quest. The guy says that hard work deserves a big payday, but when our hero starts crying, the man just thinks he got poked by something sharp. For his second quest, he had to help build the massive city wall while it was right in the middle of being put together. The town was getting way too packed, and the old wall was a mess, so they ripped it down to build a better one, and this was already the 5th quest today that someone had personally begged. The guy with the helmet and hammer told him he was counting on him again today. Our main guy was stuck on trash duty, but he had this crazy box that sucked up all the junk in seconds. Ain and cock it, but when he finally arrived at the spot, he found a massive pile of bricks waiting for him. Actually, let's keep it simple as, he used his skills to haul bricks, but when the guys offered him a drink, he turned them down because he had a quest to finish. After knocking out every quest for the day, he headed to the guild to turn them in and watched the whole reward drop right into his account. Milia said her goodbyes, and Iris was already waiting by the exit to tell him he did an awesome job and ask if he finished everything. She said yes, asked how he was doing, and since she was finished with everything too, she asked if he wanted to grab some dinner. He wasn't really feeling meat today, so she told him she knew the perfect spot, which makes sense since she's been asking him to hang out every single day. Inside the restaurant, our guy tells her everything is perfect with 0 complaints, so she says she's glad he likes it before asking why he even moved to the city. Kusaka brushed it off as a total accident and asked why she moved there, but he told her she could just forget he asked if it was too hard to talk about. Iris says there's a massive city hidden right under their feet, and she's on a mission to find its ancient ruins. That ancient empire might be history, but they left clues all over the map, and researchers just stumbled onto a massive hidden city right under Annan. He told her he finally got what she was searching for, and she admitted that was the entire reason she moved there. Since this world had such a crazy advanced civilization, there's definitely some insane superweapon hidden deep inside those ruins. Iris mentioned she's finally got some leads on this civilization, but she's still totally lost on where it's actually hidden. Kusaka thought the whole thing sounded pretty interesting. He tells her he's got a map of the area and offers to check it out, and she's totally down for it. Kusaka demands the system show him the underground city, figuring it can't be that easy or everyone would know, but the map actually points right to it. Our hero mentions the city is hidden deep in Kalo Forest, but he's totally sketched out by it, so he asks the girl for her take, and she's just blown away they even found. After a bit, they finally decided to go check it out. They followed the map through the forest until they reached the right spot. But when they arrived, it was just a total wasteland. Our guy decided it was time to finally smash that rock. He pulled on the black spider glove. He figured he didn't need anything else to get the job done. Iris walked up to the rock and figured a secret passage was hidden right there, so she told everyone they should start searching. Our hero taps the rock and realizes something is hidden inside, but even when he pushes with everything he's got, the block won't budge an inch. He spammed a few more skills and finally got the thing to move. There was a door hidden right behind it. They figured this had to be the secret entrance to the underground city. Kusaka touched the object and felt a strange warmth, and when the girl suggested it might be orichalcum, he totally recognized the name from his favorite fantasy games. I already told you this thing is super rare, and it's got the absolute best physical and magic defense in its entire class. They were sure this was the entrance, but there wasn't even a handle, leaving them totally clueless on how to get inside. He reads the words on the door, and his status screen instantly flashes with a new update. He gets a big welcome to the underground city, but the system tells him he's gotta. Turns out it's an orichalcum golem, an ancient war machine decked out in legendary metal armor with a rapid-fire laser cannon right in its eye. Our MC told him to get lost, but right then, the golem locked onto the target and started smashing it to bits. Iris screamed for Kusaka to run as far away from that guy as possible while she stayed behind to act as bait. This guy is an ES rank threat, which is a whole level above the Black Spider, and even though she's fought him before, they both have absolutely zero chance of winning. Our guy wasn't so sure, telling them they wouldn't know for real until they tried, and only then would they decide if it was time to run. Our guy says he'd feel like total trash if he ditched someone just to save his own skin, and right then, the golem starts swinging. Kusaka realizes just how insane that magic laser really is, and he's honestly terrified of what would have happened if he hadn't dodged it in time. The golem fires off a magic laser, proving it's powered by magic, so our hero quickly asks Iris how they even managed to beat it last time. She warned him they're aiming straight for his eyes because it's the only spot that orichalcum metal doesn't cover. The MC says they can win if they just get in close, but Iris warns that the laser will slice him to bits before he can even move. Kusaka said he'd be the shield and bounce back every attack, so he was counting on her to finally take the guy down. Iris points out that winning would prove he's as strong as 19 A-rank adventurers, and he just thinks that sounds like a total blast. Kusaka and Iris rushed the monster, but the golem spotted them and fired a huge laser, so Kusaka quickly threw his gloved hand up to stop the attack. This black spider glove literally sucks up magic, so it's just gonna soak up that laser like it's nothing. Our hero shielded Iris with his body as the golem lunged, but the monster couldn't even touch them, and then Kusaka screamed at her to finally make a move. Iris got the signal, zoomed out from behind the hero, and slammed her spear right into the villain's eye. But when the guy tried to hit her back, Kusaka stepped in and told him, "Not on my watch." He didn't just soak up the magic power, he used his black spider thread skill to spin it all into a physical thread. Iris slammed her spear into his face again, totally wrecking him until he just crashed to the ground. The enemy vanished, and with the girl saying he's totally shut down, they finally won, and our hero just hit level 38. The golem was finally taken down for good, making the win official. All the rights to the underground city were handed straight over to him. Kusaka stood there in shock, wondering if he wondered if they could finally get that door open, and the girl thanked him for being the only reason she was still alive. He thanked her because he couldn't have won solo, and Iris admitted she couldn't have pulled it off without him either. She flashed a sweet grin and told them they're a perfect match, thinking they might just become the ultimate team. The door scanned their magic, gave him a quick welcome, and the gates swung wide as they headed straight for the underground city. A video of the main guy popped up, showing everyone he's got crazy skills like auto-loot and item boxes. Iris thinks he might be a transmitter and even mentions a legend that backs her up. This weird creature from way out there had insane skills, and Kusaka said it finally made sense. He admitted it was true but begged her to keep it a secret, and Iris agreed, though she was still dying to know where he actually came from. Kusaka wasn't sure if she'd actually believe he was from another world, so he just told her he came from the farthest place anyone could ever imagine. Iris apologized and said they should just move on. He told her he was totally fine but just found it hard to talk, and then she finally admitted that they both felt the exact same way. Kusaka apologized for keeping so many secrets, but Iris was totally cool with it and told him she really trusts him. He told her to look straight ahead, because it finally looked like they were hitting the end of that massive tunnel. Our hero and Iris shared a quick grin, and then both of them bolted straight into the light together. She asked if they were seriously in an underground city, and once he said yes, they looked out to see a bright blue sky and a massive open field. They still couldn't believe they were standing in a city deep underground. Suddenly, they heard a creepy rustle in the grass. Kusaka didn't waste a second and whipped out. A slime suddenly pops out of the grass and tells our hero he's totally wrong, claiming he's not a bad guy and he's not even a monster. This little guy is a helper slime. His main job is basically babysitting the monsters. It turns out he's actually an official staff member here. Our MC and Iris agreed this guy wasn't a threat, and even though Slime said they totally freaked him out, he decided he wanted to be friends anyway. Before long, a whole squad of slimes popped up and told them they were created just to serve their master, and had been waiting forever for him to finally show up. Our hero was totally stunned by what they said, but then Iris walked up and started poking him, making him yell that he's super ticklish. Kusaka asked what she was doing, and she got so embarrassed she hid her face, so he asked if she really was that obsessed with cute things. The slimes asked if he wanted to know more about the underground city, and he was totally down for it. They built this underground spot as a secret hideout, and pretty soon they're gonna turn the whole place into a massive city. Right then, he goes all out with the system's help, finishes his status check, and watches his creation skills get a massive power-up. Now that he's in a side city, he unlocked 2 epic new skill creation features and decided it was time to build something big. He whipped up a ball of magic and chucked it to the side, and boom! A massive 2-story house appeared out of nowhere, totally blowing everyone's minds. His first new power lets him turn extra magic into building supplies, and he can make 5 different kinds. The second upgrade lets it build stuff from scratch, so if you just tweak the photosphere, it can literally pop out a whole house. Our guy thought this was going to be a total blast, just like playing a base building game, when suddenly the slimes turned toward him sounding super hyped. They were totally freaking out, wondering if they were even the right ones to be building this entire city. The slimes asked Kusaka if he had the construction directive skill to lead the build, but he told them he didn't have it at all. Normally you only get building skills if you're a hero, demon king, or sage, and those creation tools only unlock once you actually have the skill. But looking at the help menu, this guy, the slimes asked if he really had the creation skill, which is a massive deal because only the most special people can ever get it. Everyone started screaming that their master was a total legend, and with a guy like him leading the way, their city was finally going to be awesome. Iris was shocked because she'd never heard of a creation skill, and warned him he'd make enemies out of every carpenter. But Nakusaka just told her it wasn't just for building houses. He crafts everything from weapons and armor to furniture and potions, making the girl realize that Warvel's insane skills are going to turn every other craftsman into his enemy. Slime says the underground city is nowhere near finished, so everyone's just hyped that he's the one who's going to wrap up this massive project. He's positive the underground city will come in clutch for our hero later, and while the MC gets it, he tells him he's just going to have to wait a bit. Finding these ancient ruins is a massive deal, so Iris tells him he should definitely report it to the guild. Kusaka needed to figure out what to report, so the whole group headed back to the city for a bit. She mentioned she wanted to keep one of the slimes, and a bit later, they reached the guild to find Amelia. Another girl had to bolt for an emergency meeting, so she told her she'd either fill her in later, or she could just find the info herself. Kusaka told her not to worry about it because he had some big news to drop, and she gave him the green light to start. The MC tells her they found a massive ancient city hidden underground, and it takes a second to sink in before she starts screaming her head off. Iris says this is the super famous underground city near Annan, and even though it's in ruins, the whole place is still running. The girl told them to just hang tight while she went to talk to the boss in the lobby, leaving Kusaka and Iris totally stunned. That professor from the royal capital is pulling up any second, so he's trying to finish his lunch as fast as he can. Iris thinks the sandwich looks fire, so Kusaka tells her it's a special dish called kinkumate kall and offers her a bite, which she's totally down for. He's ready to dive into the fried food first, but she suddenly snatches the fork right out of his hand and tells him he won't be needing it. Kusaka's totally blown away by how good her cooking is. Iris tells him she just loves making food whenever she's free. She thinks it's way better when you actually have... He realized she's actually obsessed with cute stuff and is a total pro in the kitchen. But just as he was learning all these new secrets, a sudden voice caught them both off guard. The door swings open and a total stranger greets them, even though Kusaka was totally expecting to see an old man. But it was actually just a young guy named Lyric Dubert, the Duke's third son who's also a total archaeology nerd. He's a high-class noble for sure, but he's actually asking everyone to just treat him like a regular guy. He's super awkward at fancy meetings and they literally make him feel itchy, so he asks if he can tell them about the underground city instead. Larry squeezed his fists tight as his eyes started to glow, and he demanded they spill every single secret they were hiding. Once they finished catching up, they headed to the underground city together, and the entrance totally blew the archaeologist's mind. He started feeling the door, asking if it was already calcium, and then he realized there was a ton of it. Lyric started geeking out over how holy and shiny everything was, even saying he wanted to lick it all, before mentioning how much loot you could get for just one door. Our guy told him to get out of the way so they could head inside, and suddenly, the door announced the magic sample was a match. After a while, the city gates finally swung open, and a voice called out from the shadows to welcome Xebathon as the master. Lyric was totally shocked to find out Kusaku was a master, and he realized he'd completely forgotten to mention that part. He told him all about wrecking that golem, and the guy was so shocked his jaw literally hit the floor. Lyric took one look at the view and asked if they were actually in an underground city, because this place definitely didn't look like a dungeon. He said it was way more insane than anyone could have dreamed. This discovery was going to flip the history of archaeology on its head, and Lyric was freaking out because he totally forgot. Right then, the guy finally spots the slimes, and they just turn back to give our hero and Iris another friendly wave. They turned to Lyric and said they'd never met before, but when Slime claimed he was just an assistant, the man's jaw literally hit the floor in shock. He crouched down and asked if they were ancient magic creatures, and the guy told him he knew all about them. Lyric started explaining how he's a total expert on ancient secret groups, and while he used to think they were just stories, it turns out they're 100% real. The guy spots the house, points right at it, and asks if it was actually built by a slime. The slime just smirked and told them they were wrong, because his master actually built the whole house in the blink of an eye. Larika turns to the MC, and he tells her that the guy who owns this place can basically build anything. The guy says he totally gets it, and since this underground city is basically a ghost town, the master is free to build whatever he wants there. He asked if a total rookie could even handle this place, then said that's exactly why he came back to turn in his report. Lyric was honestly so hyped he found this spot, especially since most people just take over ruins without even telling the guild. The guy said it looked like Kusaka finally realized how huge this was for history and thanked him. Our main guy asks him to spill more about those ancient civilizations, and Lyric flexes by saying he knows absolutely everything about them. After a bit, they finally head inside, and while the guy is totally shocked he had to walk the streets barefoot, our MC just shrugs it off like it's nothing new. He figured he might be in the far future, but he wasn't totally sure since his nickname was the Transmitter. Lyric asked to spill everything he knew and revealed that a massive civilization existed 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. With that insane lost magic tech, the sky wasn't even the limit anymore since they could travel to other stars and planets. They're totally hooked on their magic lamps and gear, and even their maps and story progress come straight from the stuff they scavenged in the ruins. But all that's just ancient history now, like flying across the world on giant metal birds or talking to people far away using a tiny box that fits right in your hand. Kusaka started thinking about stuff like spaceships and phones, realizing this ancient world is basically his old home, but powered by magic instead of science. Lyra explained that they were eventually wiped out, and without that high-tech magic, their ancestors lost all their legendary glory. Our hero asks if a world war caused all this chaos, but Lyark admits he has no clue why it happened. Everyone figured some mystery monster was behind the whole mess, so Kusaka asked what was up with him since he had a seriously bad feeling about everything. Iris explains that her people's legends actually mention this disaster, saying that her tribe and humans once joined forces to fight it together. The fight was a total beatdown. Everyone lost everything they ever owned. That tragedy turned into a burning rage that's now hiding somewhere out there. Even with all their insane magic tech, their whole world still got wiped out, and that same nightmare could wake up again any second. Right then, a slime hops over and sets up a table loaded with food, telling them to grab whatever they want. Our hero stabs a bite with his fork, tries it out, and says it tastes amazing while Iris digs into her own meal right beside him. Lyric was super jealous that his ancestors got to eat this every single day, and he wondered where the slimes even found the ingredients and silverware. Slime explains that since they're assistants, they have a special item box skill that's literally built into their bodies. The assistant finally opened his mouth and showed everyone exactly where he scored all those items, leaving the whole crowd totally stunned. Our main guy realized the ingredients they were using actually came straight out of a mouthful of slime. Lyric said they had to get back to Katra to deal with the disaster. but he actually had a secret plan and asked Kusaka if he was down to build something. The guy held up his hand and told them he was there to dig up ancient secrets and get ready for the future. With everything going down lately, Onan might be in trouble, and if he is, this spot is going to be the perfect place to hide out. With no battles to fight, digging up ancient ruins sounds like a great time. Plus, building a city from scratch would be just like playing a real-life video game. Kusaka's been grinding for 30 minutes and already hit 8,000 materials, so instead of just building houses one by one, he's about to try something way cooler. He whipped up this massive sphere, and Lyric was totally confused because the thing looked just like a giant construction egg. He chucked the sphere into the empty field, and instantly, dozens of fully built houses just popped into existence. I told him he was basically a god, but he just played it cool and said it was all down to his insane skills. She knows all about that skill and thinks it's the strongest one out there, but right as she's about to call him a transmitter, she switches it up and says this place is straight up hell. The slimes came up and asked if they could fill the empty space in the houses, and Kusaka was totally down for it. He started giving everyone jobs, using the city of Annan as a blueprint for houses, shops, and farms to finally get the whole place finished. Kusaka suddenly started questioning his creation skill, feeling like it had way more hidden power than he first thought. Lyric was super hyped, saying Len Quote's discovery was a massive deal for history, and he even gave the king a full report on both of them. Suddenly, the ground started to shake, and Iris and the guy were totally caught off guard. Eventually, the ground finally stopped moving, and they all started asking if that massive shake was really just an earthquake. It was short and super mysterious, but suddenly the slime started screaming that something was wrong and told them to follow him right away. They finally reached the spot, and the slime told them they'd arrived right in front of a massive black stone pillar with a seal on it, so Kusaka asked what the heck it was. The slime explains it hit a massive growth spurt during the earthquake. Then Iris spots a weird mark on the seal and asks if the golem has the same one, which our hero totally confirms. Lyric realized this place was rigged with teleportation magic, and the second he touched it, he vanished into thin air. Iris asks for his take, and Kusaka says there's no way they're ditching him, so they both grab the seal at the exact same time. They ended up in a totally mysterious spot. The MC checked the map and realized there was only one path forward. Lyric spotted them and was super hyped. Suddenly, Kusaka senses something's wrong and tells the guy to get behind them because a monster might be lurking nearby. Right then, a slime and glass pop up out of nowhere, and he tells them they've got it all wrong because he's not a bad monster at all. Slime pushed up his glasses and said he was hyped to meet his owner, looking like a tiny version of those helper slugs but with specs. Our guy asks where they are, and he finds out they're at the very bottom of the underground city, watching a crazy disaster known as the Black Dragon. Kusaka asked if there were other disasters, and the assistant told him there were actually a ton more. Lyric was totally blown away by the discovery, but then the slime told him he had something even bigger to share. This whole place is constantly being held up, but if the right things happen, that support vanishes. And when Kusaka asked if the black demon would wake up then, the slime confirmed it. Our hero starts panicking because he remembers the Black Dragon is the same monster that wiped an entire ancient civilization off the map. Slime says there's a massive mountain north of the Fetos range where a black dragon is sleeping, and we've got less than 10 days before it wakes up. The assistant promised to tell them everything about the Black Dragon, but said they had to move to a new spot first, so they followed him. Slime explained that this magic tool is for recreating images. Then he told Kusaku to go ahead and touch it. The orb announces the lock is broken and Ushikri's reboot is starting, but this footage is actually 4,000 years old, and shows them building a city from way back then. The dragon shoots a giant energy ball from its mouth, leveling the whole city and leaving everyone to burn inside their homes. Before long, a massive explosion totally wiped out the city, leaving Kusaka in complete shock. Slime said over 100 people were suffering, and in just seconds, thousands of lives were wiped out because that Fitcha creature was actually a black dragon. This monster is totally new, and our hero has never seen anything this crazy before. Iris compared it to a massive flood, but now it turns out there's actually more than one disaster coming. Lyric was shaking like crazy, telling them they had to rush back to Onan and get everyone down into the underground city immediately. The MC agrees, and Slime says they've got 3 days to get everyone out of there. The slime wearing glasses used his movement magic to zip them over to the entrance, and then they all bolted toward Annan. The second they stepped into the guild, everyone looked totally freaked out, and Kusaka knew something super sketchy was definitely going down. Millie says hey, and asks about the underground city, so Lyric explains it actually belonged to a super old civilization from way back. The girl says this is a massive discovery they'd normally celebrate, but since things are so messed up right now, Kusaka asks what's going on. Mulea said a massive stampede was brewing up north near the Phaedos Mountains, so Kale had to ask her to repeat that just to be sure. Iris explains it's basically a massive monster stampede where thousands, or even tens of thousands of them, all charge together like a giant wave. Around 10 this morning, a massive wave of magic energy suddenly spiked out of nowhere. The guild's math says 50,000 monsters are spawning in that nest in just 3 days, and they're totally planning to raid Onan City. Milia starts freaking out about a total disaster, but the crazy part is that Onan's vanguard was already wiped out 3 months ago during the last stampede. Onan's only got guild mercs and adventurers to back them up, so protecting the city is going to be a total nightmare. She hits them with a huge question, asking if they really think an underground city is a safe place to hide. They all shared a look, but the MC just flashed a big grin and told them everything was going to be totally fine. Milia stumbled into a massive city hidden deep below the surface, and she was totally blown away that they were actually underground. The guild leader Zita and Barden called him a total lunatic and just started cracking up. He told Kusaka that every single person from Onan City could fit in there and begged him to let them use it as a hideout. Our guy just said this was the plan from the very start, and the leader actually bowed his head to thank him. Milia promised they'd do their best to get every single person in Onan out of there safely. Our hero says he's got a ton of questions to ask, but in his head, he knows he has to report the Black Dragon. He was just about to start talking when the slime with glasses snapped that the whole thing was getting way too stupid. Our hero tried to get him to chill, but the slime cut him off to ask if that huge crush in the northern Phaedos Mountains was really going down. He says that right before a massive impact, a ton of magic particles show up and start vibrating like crazy. That sleeping black dragon was waking up way earlier than anyone expected, so he turned to Kusaka and asked what the plan was. The whole squad was totally frozen, watching this insane black dragon circle the sky and rain down fireballs that blasted the ground so hard the entire world started shaking. She was absolutely terrified, yelling that they were way too close to getting wiped out, her eyes widening as she realized just how bad things almost got. The guy says the stampede already made things a total disaster, while Kusaka-ku stays in the back to ask the girl if she's doing okay. Slime warns that the stampede is hitting way earlier than planned, and asks if they even have enough time to make it until tomorrow. He put the pieces together and realized Onan City was about to get hit by the Black Dragon and the monster army at the exact same time. The guy asks if he should head back to Onan to start the evacuation. Kusaka says they'll be right behind him, but he's way too distracted by the slime. He tells... Cow looked up to see 3 massive stone doors covered in wild patterns, and right next to them was a tiny slug who looked totally ready to follow him anywhere. The bespectacled slime reveals a 4,000-year-old legend about insane treasure hidden deep in a spooky crypt, meant only for a chosen master. Ku nervously asked his assistant which of the 3 doors led to their prize, scanning the hallways for clues while trying to remember some old secrets he'd forgotten. Slime finally remembers the rules. Heroes go left, demon lords take the middle, and the sage goes right. But he jumps back in shock when he realizes the hero doesn't fit any of those. Suddenly, a voice rings out saying Kusakao's status is confirmed, the secret requirement is met, and the doors finally swing wide open. The squad made their move and headed through the left door, while the slime with glasses just stood there totally shook, whispering to his friends because he had no clue what was even happening. Hanging on the wall of this huge hall was a busted-up magic sword that glowed just enough to show it was hiding a massive secret. Right there stood the legendary sword from all the old stories, the same weapon used to slay the Black Dragon, but it's been totally wrecked ever since that massive fight 4,000 years ago. Slime told him this weapon could change the future and bring back the Age of Heroes, but Cow hesitated, saying he was just an ordinary dude. The guy finally made his big move. He was going to grab that legendary sword for himself, but the second he reached out, the blade just vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a creepy glow. He reached out his hand and the air started shaking as a magic portal opened up, and then a legendary sword floated out and began spinning right in the middle of the room. Once the assistant finally snapped out of it, he was dying to know how the master fixed that busted weapon. So Kukanli explained he used his insane skill creation to basically reboot the ancient relic from. The guy actually stumbled onto the secret of fixing the sword by total accident just by keeping a piece of it in his inventory, and he soon realized he had this insane talent for buffing and repairing gear. He's rocking God's Blessing A+, making his blade crazy sharp and able to fix itself, while Dragon Slayer S+, buffs both him and his sword, and his God's Slash move absolutely wrecks enemies once he charges it with magic. He forged the ultimate dragon-slaying blade, hoping it's finally enough to let him go head-to-head with the legendary Black Dragon. Our hero asks his tiny helper if they should check out the last 2 doors, and the little slug nods right away, totally down to follow him. They spotted a massive robot that was actually a magic railgun with long-range shots that could burn through anything, making it the perfect weapon to stop the stampede. Ku reached out to grab the treasure, but the slime blocked him and warned that trying to take it would be a total fail. To get it out, you have to use the Demon Lord's massive storage, and man, everyone's wondering if that space is actually infinite. Kawasaki's freakish origin pushed Ku all the way to infinity, so he came up with a plan and slapped down a magic seal. The hero summons his loyal golem to settle things once and for all, and the giant beast appears with a heavy rumble, giving its master a sharp salute. Golem and Ku shared a handshake, both totally stoked to meet each other. But then our hero realized this was actually that high-level A+ processing. The Stone Guardian put his hand over his heart and looked at his master, his voice booming as he promised to always have his back when things got crazy. The Dahlem acted super chill and asked the slug to team up, and even though the slug was a bit suspicious, it actually agreed to help out. Ku tells him straight up that he'll call for backup when things get crazy, and the Stone Guardian stays totally chill, promising to wait for his master's command. The guy finished the plan and told everyone to head for the next door, while the slime said it would stick by Komi since she's always falling behind the group. They found a busted old shield, and all those jagged cracks showed just how many brutal battles the owner had survived. Slug explains the legend, saying this is the exact shield heroes used 4,000 years ago when they went head-to-head with the Black Dragon himself. The Black Dragon totally trashed it, and since even the sage couldn't fix the mess, they decided to see if the owner could bring it back to life. Slime wondered how his master was going to fix the artifact, but the answer hit him right away when the guy sadly admitted he just didn't have the skills or the know-how to. The guy explained that the shield was a total nightmare to figure out because every piece was different. But suddenly, the slime's loud voice snapped them out of it. To fix the item, they had to find the Dragon God's ruby, a legendary gem that only shows up once every 10,000 years deep inside the super dangerous Dragonlands. After thinking it over, Ku realized he just didn't have the time to reach the Dragonland since the trip was way too expensive and way too dangerous. With a massive golem and a pro like Graham on your side, you'll crush any enemy and breeze through even the toughest missions. The slug slithered back to its master, thanking him for the win and promising to stay loyal so they could keep teaming up. The assistant looked at the owner and offered to link his soul and the other spirits directly to him, creating a mental bond that would let them work together to totally boost the guy's stats. Kao was totally blown away by the offer and just stood there frozen, trying to wrap his head around what a relationship like that would actually mean. The slugs grinned and explained this was a lucky gift, letting him call on the spirit's energy to power through any challenge that gets in his way. Ku smiled and gave his little assistant a head pat, knowing this new skill was going to be a total game changer for his future battles. Suddenly, he's super curious about how the spirit world actually works, so he checks out the weird symbols around him and starts wondering what these spirits really are. These creatures are actually born from human feelings like love, rage, and hope. Most people never even see them, but these spirits are always lurking nearby, secretly messing with our lives. Back home, Ko asked Iris how the evacuation was going, and she told him it was smooth sailing since the guild was there to keep everyone from panicking. The owner was hyped to hear that, so he told Iris all about the loot he grabbed from the crypt that would help them finally take down the Black Dragon. Iris stopped to think for a second, so Kusakako asked her what was going on, and if she'd ever actually explained why she was hunting for those ancient ruins from long-lost civilizations. A long time ago, a girl ditched her home in the land of giant dragons to hunt down a legendary treasure called the Shield of the Dragon God. Ku Frozen Place's jaw dropped as he tried to wrap his head around the massive secret behind his simple friendship with the girl. The fire kept talking about losing a massive fight to a dragon 4,000 years ago, so she headed out to find the ruins. Kusaka was acting super cocky, telling her that giving back the shield wouldn't hurt her at all, and promising she'd have it back in her hands before she knew it. She held her hands out toward him with a look that said she was waiting for something big, making Ku freeze up as he started to get super nervous and totally confused. The girl looked at Kus and asked if he was actually good enough to use creation magic and fix the shield back to its perfect form. He said there's no way he can do it yet because the slime told him he needs to find the Dragon God Ruby first. She reached into her massive travel bag and felt around, searching for that one special thing she needed. She flashed a grin and handed her friend the smooth red gem, which was glowing with all kinds of crazy colors. The stone felt weirdly warm, and just like the Iris people always said, if you're a transmitter with a shield, you've got to deck it out with a ruby. Ku checked out the gift and asked in a super steady voice if he could use the stone. That legendary shield suddenly pops out of the portal like magic strings are pulling it, and it looks incredible with its shiny silver surface and all those epic patterns and gems. Her face totally dropped in shock, and seeing her reaction, The guy got worried and asked if something went wrong while staring closely at her. Iris told them that even if the shield is fixed, she can't use it without the Maiden of the Dragon God Sanctuary skill, but she's not sweating it at all. She just smirked, knowing she already had that exact skill in her back pocket. There's an old dragon legend that every few hundred years, a girl is born with the crazy skills of the Dragon God Sanctuary Maiden. This skill has two main jobs: find the shield and hand it over to the reborn hero. And even though every girl before her totally failed, Iris was the first one to actually pull it. Cole was fighting with everything he had, but he couldn't help wondering what the odds were of actually finding a safe way out. Only one door in this dungeon was actually supposed to unlock, but instead, every single door in the temple swung wide open to welcome the heroes. While everyone was freaking out, it became super obvious. Yeah, it totally looks like that. This whole thing feels way too suspicious, like some secret mastermind is pulling the strings to lead the group exactly where he wants them to go. By evening, Ko pulled into a chill town and crashed at the super comfy Silent Moon Hotel to recharge his batteries for the next leg of his journey. Once he got back to the guild to report what happened, Zetan told him to just get some rest and prep for tomorrow. The creepy silence was really messing with Ku's head, and with a bad feeling that things were about to go south, his gut told him he better get ready for a fight. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door, and when Ku opens it, he finds the guild secretary Milia standing there asking for a moment of his time. She apologized for being late, but said she had some massive news that Cole needed to hear right away. Milia says if the Black Dragon shows up, Iris and Cole are the only ones fighting while everyone else just stands back and watches. Cole admitted he'd heard the same rumors from everyone else, and they all said that only he and Iris have what it takes to take down the Black Dragon. He set it up so Iris and Q would handle the fighting while the other adventurers guarded the town. Then he headed off to the crypt to get everything ready. She nodded, and since things were looking dangerous, she secretly slipped something into Q's hand. It was actually a ring, and if you ever run into a dragon, you've got to empty out the jar that holds the spirit's blessing. Cole spotted the message, "First empty the vessel," and was totally stumped, and the more he tried to crack the code, the more confusing the whole mystery became. Cole asks Milia if she can read the text, and she tells him she totally can, because her special skill lets her understand basically any language or writing. They told her straight up, this is exactly how much perfume she needed. Milia's grandpa handed him the ring and told him it was meant for the person who was actually going to fight the dragon. Cuckoo stared at the ring, totally confused, until a weird link suddenly snapped into place. It turns out he actually checked all the boxes to use it, and just like that, the skill. She asked if he was cursed, but he told her it was probably just a sick new skill he needed to test out right away. Milia just stood there, totally frozen in shock, because she always thought you had to be born lucky to have powers like that. Milia finally realized that Ku was the hero who deserved the ring. She told him straight up that he was the only one who could tap into its true power. Ku took the gift and promised he'd. The ring slid right on and fit him like it was literally made for him. The kid totally loved the ring. She was so relieved that she finally found the right person to give it to. She literally joined the guild just to make this happen. The guy told her not to. This girl was totally locked in and swore she wasn't moving an inch until every single job she was given was finished. Chuzal is going to keep a close eye on him, betting that this kid can wipe out all the monsters and take down the Black Dragon once and for all. He told her she was giving him way too much credit. Milia totally had his back and told him to chill, letting him finally breathe a huge sigh of relief. Out of nowhere, they both yawned at the same time, and she teased him for being contagious before Ku decided it was finally time to head home. Milia said they'd finish the talk tomorrow, but right now, they both seriously needed to crash. She thanked him and told him she was really counting on him, and he said he felt the exact same way. The next morning, he's chilling on his bed and realizes his new skill lets him upgrade any items that are the same type. Once he crafts 20 Fenrir skins, a secret gear recipe is finally gonna pop up. He just scored the legendary Fenrir cloak. This thing has the best defense against magic and physical hits in the whole game. Now that he's geared up with this top-tier loot, down in the underground city, the locals started coming out to welcome the new guests. Out of nowhere, Ku burst right onto the stage. He told everyone he was a pro-adventurer from Onin and the big boss of the underground city. He realized he was acting like a total big shot, but it was way too late to take it back. They've already got houses ready for everyone, and Ku says you've got to follow the guild's lead and head straight to your assigned spots. Everyone kept asking Ko if he was really a bear-smashing beast, and he just straight up told them yes. Everyone kept talking about how he was super powerful and actually a really nice guy. Iris giggled, and Kyle was super hyped he made a good impression, even if he felt a little awkward about it. Out of nowhere, Milia rushes straight over to him. She panicked while explaining that the scouts just sent word. Monsters are officially on the move from the north side of Mount Phatos. Ko is totally convinced that the chaos has already started. Iris asks how many people are safe, and when Melia says it's only 70%, the boy realizes they're totally going to run out of time. The secretary feels bad for asking for another favor, but she begs them to stand their ground and fight those monsters. The crew was totally down and they hit the road immediately because they didn't have a single second to waste. Iris and Ku stood right in the middle of the mountains and Onan. This was the exact spot where the war between monsters and humans would be decided. Since there was nowhere to hide, Iris just summoned the golem because he was honestly just ready to blow everything sky high anyway. Iris said he was full of surprises, but honestly, it was all just his crazy skills at work. The golem greeted its master and immediately felt a massive riot about to kick off. The owner asks if he's got this under control, and the golem gives him a confident nod. His eyes flashed with power and steam started pouring off his body like crazy. The robot thanked its owner for being a massive help, and Ko agreed and Iris stared off into the distance as they shouted for him too. A massive horde of monsters came charging in from way off in the distance. The boys got ready to jump into the fight while the golem just stood there, waiting for its master to give the signal. Coop gave the signal and the golem lunged forward to attack. She was totally shocked by the golem's insane power as a massive explosion went off right where the hit landed. If this golem felt like it, it could totally wipe out an entire country. Kao's health and mana are leveling up, and even though the golem is doing the heavy lifting, Kao is the one soaking up all that sweet XP. The golem says its cooldown is finally over and starts absolutely wrecking the rest of the monsters. The boys jump straight into the action, taking the left side while Iris covers the right. Iris bets that whoever crushes the fewest monsters has to pay for dinner, and he's definitely not planning to lose. The kids scrambled away, and Ku figured this was the perfect moment to see what Fenrir's cloak could really do. He triggered his Speed Grace EX skill, making time crawl to a stop while he stared right at a spider in front of him. Kyle put everything he had into a massive hit right to the spider's stomach. He sliced the next spider clean in half. He hits the ground and realizes he moved in just 2 seconds. That's crazy fast, but it costs him 6 mana points. He's healing 1% every single second, so Spider Scream better watch his back. Ku wasn't about to let that spider escape, so he blasted it with Graham's God's Thunder effect. He sliced the spider again, and his level hit some insane numbers, especially since the God's Cut gets way more reach and power the more mana you feed it. Poe tries to pull off the God S+ cut, but Graham completely ignores him and points his sword straight at the sky. The Black Dragon is finally awake. The Dragon Smasher S+ is totally powered up, and the real fight is just getting started. Right then, Iris was holding her own against the wolves using her Dragon God Barrier EX. She drove her spear right through the wolf as it lunged at her. She was totally shocked that they just wouldn't stop. She was totally cornered by a pack of wolves, but then Ku came charging in to save her. He actually said sorry for swiping her loot, but then he warned her that he was coming straight for her. You could see the fear all over the girl's face, but then the golem told his master he'd handle the small fry so they could focus on the dragon, wishing them luck as they went. The guys gave the robot a quick shout-out. Iris noticed they were all getting along great. Ku told her it's because they're basically brothers in arms now. But that dragon... They were just heading out on their journey when a massive black egg popped up right in front of them. The egg started splitting wide open, and the guys froze right in their tracks. Nobody even realized it was about to hatch until a sudden flash of light blinded everyone. This totally trashed black dragon shows up screaming, and the only way to finish it off is by using the Dragon Smasher Zord. This dragon is a massive problem because it's literally the beast that's gonna end the entire world. The dragon stared him down with those sharp eyes and let out a massive scream. The guy flinched hard as that ear-piercing scream rang out. All her debuffs were totally gone, but he still checked in to make sure she was actually okay. Iris warned them that they better not sleep on how powerful the dragon race really is. Ku-X cheered when he heard that because regular hits won't even scratch the dragon, and this sword is the only way to take it down. He knows he would have totally chickened out if he hadn't found Graham, so now he's ready to see what this sword can really do. That black dragon was hovering way up in the sky, and there was no way the kid could reach it. Who snatched up the sword and started the attack. He went for the strike, and right then the dragon turned around looking totally confused. Blood sprayed out of the massive gash, and the dragon let out a scream of pure pain. He was totally hyped that he actually managed to land a hit. That hit didn't finish him off, but man, it still did some serious damage. Ku dropped into his battle stance and realized he could actually deal some real damage to the dragon. A massive ball of magic starts charging up in the dragon's mouth, and the boy is absolutely losing it. He left the whole thing up to Ares, and she was totally down for it. She's gonna pay him back for saving her and promises to have his back forever. Ares pulled off a super tough shield move to keep herself and the boy safe. The dragon starts screaming and circling the sky, and the boys immediately snap their heads up to see what's going on. This monster charged straight for the barrier, ready to smash it to pieces. She pops her Dragon God Shield EX one more time, but even that massive barrier starts to shatter. The dragon was totally lost since the boys had just vanished into thin air. The guy lunged out and caught the girl before she could hit the ground. Arise looked up and thanked him for... The dragon was totally stuck, wrapped up in a million threads. He started crashing straight down toward the ground. Huge clouds of dust exploded all around the boys. The dragon fought like crazy to break free from those threads. She was totally stunned that they actually managed to take down that dragon. Now Kudu just had to finish him off, but he was sitting at only 40% mana, even with his power recharging by 1% every second. He decides to dump every last bit of his mana into one final massive strike. Right then, the dragon starts charging up another massive mana ball to blast the boys. Huge waves of mana were rushing straight toward each other. Ku was struggling to see through all that dust when Ares suddenly jumped in with a shield, telling him she's got his back. The guy thanked her, both of them praying that the dragon was finally dead. They started shaking with fear when those scary dragon eyes peeked right through the thick dust. The dragon threw its wings wide and let out a massive roar. Even though it was totally beat up, the dragon started soaring back into the sky. He was already high in the air when the sky suddenly went pitch black, leaving the boys stunned as Kusutali collapsed to his knees. The guy's head started spinning and he was totally losing his cool. He realized the extinction dragon just dropped a dark field, and now it's sucking the mana out of every living thing within 2 kilometers. Kyle was in a total nightmare because the dragon's power was way faster than his healing, and Iris was sweating bullets from pure fear. He realized his speed god powers wouldn't be enough to save him, and since Ku was losing the edge, they had to finish this monster off fast. He knew he had no other choice, so he dropped into a fighting stance and dumped every last bit of mana into the Gram. He triggers his God/S+ skill and blasts a massive wave of energy straight at the dragon. A massive bubble shield just snapped into place around the dragon. Ku yelled that if this plan doesn't work, he's totally giving up. The boy's massive energy blast slammed into the shield, and it actually started to crack. Sweat is pouring down his face from the pressure, and his shield is seconds away from totally shattering. Huge cracks start ripping through the shield, and the dragon is just standing there totally confused. The mana flow smashed right through the shield, but it just didn't have the power to crush the dragon. He finally shattered the barrier, but he was totally out of mana. The dragon opened its mouth wide and let out a massive scream. A massive blast of fire shot out of the dragon's mouth and torched everything in its way. Iris jumped in to shield Ku, who was so exhausted he could barely even stay on his feet. She's still pushing back that massive wave of fire, but her shield is finally starting to crack. The shield finally snapped into a million pieces, and a massive wave of fire came crashing down on her. Cool is absolutely terrified, thinking he's about to get sent straight to the afterlife. Back at his old toxic job, he didn't even care if he died, but now that he's been reborn, he's finally starting to actually enjoy being alive. He was a total outsider, but everyone welcomed him with open arms, and he's not about to let go of his new home. He's straight up refusing to pass on because he's not done living. He swears he's making it back home to everyone waiting for him. Suddenly, Mata starts flowing out of the ring, remembering the warning that if a traveler ever met a dragon, they'd need to use the ring's power. Everything is finally ready, and that spirit ring is powering up for a second. Kawa's mana just kept growing until he shot way past his actual limit. He knew this was his big moment to step up and finally take that dragon down for good. The kid blasted a massive wave of mana straight at the dragon while Iris lay nearby, totally out of energy. A massive blast of fire and mana slammed together, and the hero let out a huge scream as the dragon soared through the sky. The mana flow one and the dragon were both completely burned to a crisp. The dragon slammed into the ground, screaming its head off in total pain. The monster lunges for another hit, but right then, our hero starts blocking and fighting back. Ku aimed his attack straight at the dragon and totally wiped it out. The dragon crashed straight into the dirt while the boy watched the whole thing go down. Kurash was gasping for air after that wild fight while the dragon just vanished into thin air. Back when the black dragon was torching the land of ashes, a mysterious song started echoing from far away. Back when the ancients built their underground city, they spent 3 whole days bringing worshippers to the surface until they all fused into one single spirit. The spirit couldn't beat the black dragon just yet, but years later, he'd returned to give his creator a massive thank you. Ko was the one who actually answered that 4,000-year-old spirit, so he's totally earned the biggest reward of them all. After partying for a few days because they took down the black dragon, the whole city threw a massive feast. Cow and Iris totally saved everyone's skin, and now the whole crowd is raising their glasses to celebrate their heroes. Everyone started hyping him up for his insane feat, calling him a legendary bear crusher. Or wait, should they call him a dragon crusher instead? They invited him out for a drink because he was the total hero of the day. A girl walks up to thank him for the awesome job he did, and asks him to grab a drink to toast to his health. Right as the party was ending, Iris and Ku were just chilling on a bench when this random guy suddenly walked up to say hi. Chrome-san finally showed up and thanked the kid for saving the whole city. He was exactly the legend Chrome expected, but Ku just shook it off, saying he didn't deserve the hype and only... Looking back, Kyle realized he'd gotten insanely lucky finding that hidden underground city, the legendary dragon shield Graham, and even the spirit ring. Everything is getting super sketchy and he's starting to wonder if he missed a huge clue, but then a random guy suddenly calls out to him. He said that just showing your best self is totally different from knowing how to use all your different sides, and the people who master that look way cooler once they start getting praised. Honestly, it's more like just letting destiny do its thing. Kusha decided that luck was going to be his new secret weapon. Promson told him he meant exactly that, because the kid had done some legendary stuff and really showed everyone his true power, which is definitely something to be hyped about. He told Kao to finally start believing in himself, saying he'd be waiting to hear about his next big win from this moment on. He kept playing Chrome's words over and over in his head, and even though he never would have gotten it back in Japan, it finally clicked that he just needed to start believing in himself. The next day, a girl looking totally stunning is waiting right by the fountain, and it turns out it's actually Iris. She told him he was calling the shots for the day, and he was totally down with that. He was totally stunned because she looked like a whole different person in that dress. They hit up the restaurant where Ku was hyped because the food was just as fire as last time, and Iris remembered it was the exact spot where they geeked out over ancient civilizations. He kept going, saying that if the girl wasn't so talented, Onan never would have made it out of there. That black dragon was a total nightmare, and honestly, the girl was way too scared to ever face him again. Iris warns him that the black dragon isn't their only nightmare, and the guy totally backs her up. The guy said if things go sideways again, he'll just summon some trouble to handle it, and when she asked if he really got a new skill, he told her straight up that he did. After crushing the black dragon, his skill shot up by 19 and he unlocked a wild new power that lets him summon literal disasters. He spends his Lana points to summon a beast and force it to follow his every command. The girl says every single summon just brings more drama, but honestly, he might be the real problem here. Ku kept insisting he was just a totally normal guy, while Iris teased him and said she actually thought he was a really good person. While heading out to grab some food, he runs into Melia and mentions she's heading back to the Royal Guild soon, which is going to make things way too quiet around here. Ku says they're getting a massive reward at the capital for taking down the Black Dragon, and the girl is totally shocked the news traveled that fast. Neither of them has any idea what kind of crazy stuff life is about to throw their way. 5 years back, Iris packed her bags and left her home behind. She never imagined her life would end up looking like this. Copremain has gone completely quiet. The sad truth is that everyone back home just treated her like she was invisible. The guy got dead serious and demanded to know how things ended up like this. She reveals she has a twin sister named Ferris, and get this, she's got the Maiden of the Dragon God Shrine skill too. Who said this was weird? It turns out these super rare scales actually show up way more often than once every few hundred years. Iris was a Dragon God Shrine Maiden, and a total beast with a spear, while Pharisee had those same maiden powers plus the ability to see the future. Her future-seeing powers finally kicked in. She could see every single danger coming her way before it even happened. By the time she was only 6, she had already become a legendary divine. She and Ferris both trained at the temple, but she was honestly just the backup plan. But then, the second she turned 5, everything changed. Monsters swarmed the temple and Ferris ended up getting killed. Iris is the divine maiden on a mission to find the divine dragon shield and return a ruby, so the second she turned 16, she grabbed 3 guards and hit the road. 3 days later, the travel cache and the guards totally vanished into thin air. It was a moment she'd never be able to forget. The guy told her he totally got what she was going through. She downed the wine, knowing Koiris was the only reason she actually finished the job. Now she could finally face that girl without feeling ashamed, and she was honestly so thankful to the guy for everything he did. He laughs and asks if she's planning to head back home, but Iris tells him she's going to avoid that for as long as she can. She asked if he was going to keep traveling, and Kao said he's not stopping until he sees every single cool thing in the world. She begged to tag along, and even though he asked if she'd get bored, Iris was totally sure it was going to be a blast. He told her she was totally different now, but she didn't think she'd changed one bit. Before this, she thought she was totally alone with no friends to help her, so she had to use her powers just to stay alive. She's finally got someone in her corner thanks to Ku, and now he's looking at her with a big question. She kept going, saying that when he crushed the black dragon, he didn't just rescue her, he saved her heart and finally made her happy. She's so glad they met, and now she's totally down to follow him wherever he goes. They finally left the restaurant late that night, and she told him to just act like their whole conversation never even happened. She played it off like it was just the booze talking. The guy thought he'd definitely had way too much to drink himself. Iris tried to get him to say it again, but he asked her if she wanted to grab dinner again, and she was totally down for it. They grabbed each other's hands and locked eyes, making the whole moment super intense. They just kept on walking, holding hands the whole time. The girl shouted over to Ko, pointing out a ton of mushrooms on the shore since she knew he loved looking at them. He agrees and thanks her for the backup, but she's just doing it because she wants to. The kid points out they've been doing everything together lately, so he asks why they don't just rejoin their old squad once they get back to the guild. Iris says their ranks are way too different to make it work, but she'd still love to be on a team with Kyle. She told him to chill because an invite from the Capital's Guild is coming soon, and that's his big chance to take the exam and finally rank up. Right after that, they're gonna team up and form their own squad. She asked if he was down, and Cool said yes since Iris really wanted to go on this journey with him. She totally agreed because he was a blast to be around, but then something weird caught her eye in the trees. Both of them were convinced they were straight-up monsters. Turns out these are just harmless flying mushrooms that scramble away the second they spot a human. Iris told him that eating this would actually make him fly. This mushroom looked super weird, though. Cal realized he could use these to craft something epic. He knew he had to grab as many as... She offered to block the exits so he could corner them, but he didn't even need her help because he just triggered his insane divine speed EX blessing. He zipped through the trees like a bolt of lightning, and the girl was totally blown away by his insane speed. Koki bragged that he snatched up 56 of them in just 2 seconds, moving so fast that Iris couldn't see a single thing. After that, they just kept right on grinding for more materials. By the time they finally made it back to Annan, the sun was already coming up. A girl runs up shouting that she's his biggest fan and asks for a handshake, so he totally lets her. She's dying to be an adventurer just like him, so she straight up asks to be his student. The manager hooked him up with a free drink, and the girl's mom promised this would finally make her super strong. He was still super popular, which honestly stressed him out. But then Milya spotted them and thanked Iro-san and Kusan for doing a great job. They showed up right on time, and Milya told them the Adventurers Guild just sent over 2 invitations. Ko stared at the invite for the big award ceremony. The secretary explained that Scarlett's company is handling all their travel plans. They just need to head over to the office tomorrow whenever they... This is Scarlett, the company where Chrome works, and when Iris asks Milya to hit up the award ceremony, she's totally down for it. She's totally swamped with work in this department and thinks the only time they'll actually see each other is at the award ceremony. She just wants them to have a total blast on this trip, especially since the views are going to be insane. And Milya is 100% sure they're gonna have the time. Iris and her crew shared a quick look, and the guy was seriously dying to finally arrive. If you're wondering why he's out in this field, it's because he's gotta test the new gear he just built before he goes to sleep. His first item is a ring made straight from the body of a black dragon. Check out the Fire Dragon Emperor ring, an A+ exclusive piece of gear that packs the crazy Executive Emperor EX effect. Fire Emperor's successor, EX, just kicked in. And now Kukusaka has those legendary fire powers added to his arsenal. He quickly realized that, believe it or not everyone in this world is actually born with magic powers. He's gotta find a skill that actually fits his power type. Fire Emperor is the absolute peak of magic, but he can only pull it off if he's wearing the Fire Dragon Emperor ring. Ku decides to go for it and blasts a flaming arrow right out of the ring. She slammed into a tree and it turned to ash a second later, making this the perfect power for him to use. Only the tree caught fire. So he looked at the field and wondered if he could pull off a massive area attack instead. He's aiming 30 meters out, planning to torch everything in a 10-meter circle right at the center, so Ku holds out his hand and lets his fire arrow rip. A massive ring of flames just erupted right in the middle of the field. The kid thought this was absolutely insane, and since the bell only burns exactly what he wants, it's actually super handy. But then out of nowhere, something starts beeping. Turns out they're actually monsters called fighter rabbits. And a whole squad of them jumps the kid who thought they'd be easy target practice. He blasts the rabbits with his fire arrow skill, roasting them as they crash to the ground. That arrow hit them straight in the heart, and Ku is so pro he can crush rabbits without even ruining the material. A notification pops up showing he finally hit level 92. His HP and MP bars instantly shoot through the roof. He feels his body getting way faster and stronger. These stats are honestly way too. He finally tests out the potion he made from those flying and wet mushrooms, And it's actually insane because it gives him a legendary S+ wind blessing. He started dreaming about what it would be like to soar through the clouds while sipping that potion, which actually tasted awesome, just like some high-end Japanese sake. He blasted off the ground and tried to fly as high as he could. As soon as Ku hit the sky, he was totally blown away by how incredible the view was. He spent the next while testing out all kinds of cool ways to fly, having the time of his life in the clouds until the power finally ran out, and he headed back to the pavilion way past midnight. The kid cooked up a brand new recipe and made a shirt that felt totally amazing. He just crawled into bed and drifted off into a deep sleep. Iris says they've been here a million times, but the view is still insane, and Kua totally agrees. A whole swarm of slugs rushed to greet the owner, and the guys realized things were getting seriously awkward. They're ditching Onin City, and it looks like they won't be heading back to the underground city for a long time. The slugs are feeling super lonely waiting for their owner to show up today, and they're actually getting really worried about him. Slime really wants to go on an adventure with his owners, but he's totally stuck and can't leave the underground city. Out of nowhere, Ku's ring pings him with a wild deal. If he rewrites the underground city's main system, he can actually take a slime with him, and the ring asks if he's down to do it. He was totally down to start right this second, and Slime was absolutely hyped about it. The slime's body started burning up, and he had no clue what was going on. The guy explained he was rewriting the system right then and there, and once he was finished, the slimes would finally be free to go outside. Slime finally realized what was going on, and he was so hyped because he could finally go with his favorite owner. He was totally hyped and couldn't wait for the big adventure to start. He was so pumped to finally hit the road as his master's personal bodyguard. Ring asks to give the helper slime a name, and Iris is like, "Wait, you actually want to name it?" She suggested names like Ozes or Savannah, but Ku wasn't feeling them and thought using the name of the race was way cooler. Ku crouched down to give his new buddy a name, and little Sarara the slug whispered it back to see if he liked the sound of it. The slug cheered that his name was Sarara, thanked his master for the awesome name, and then drifted right off to sleep. He figured the system was just bugging out after the update, kind of like a computer that needs a quick restart to get back on track. The slugs promised to tuck the exhausted guy in for a nap while they went to grab a sweet surprise for their favorite owner. Pooh nervously asked if it was actually a gift, and the tiny slug totally freaked out when he heard that. The slug was shouting so loud that both the guy and the girl nearby heard every single word of their weird conversation. The slug tells the guy he's heading out on a journey and shows him some wild items from the underground city, leaving him totally frozen in shock. They find a bunch of carts, and the little slime explains they're from an ancient civilization, each with a totally unique room inside. She spotted a kitchen, he found 2 comfy beds, and the next room even had a whole second floor. Iris said if they joined all these rooms together, it would make a sick carriage, and Slug totally agreed with her. Sorata's hyped for the owner to use his creation skill on these carriages to make something totally epic, while Ku dives in to check out the new recipe. He knew exactly what he had to do, so he locked in and finally used his creation to trigger a massive magic seal. Suddenly, this massive epic carriage rolls up right in front of them. It's one of the biggest rides Kukusaka ever built. This thing is basically a 2-story house on wheels. They stared at the epic carriage in total awe because the thing was absolutely massive. His ring suddenly pinged with a notification, showing that his skill creation just hit level 16 thanks to all that XP. This level up actually unlocked even more ways for him to use the skill. He used to only be able to use creation inside the spatial box, but now he can use it on the outside too as long as he's touching the object. He told her to head inside, and even though she thought the carriage was already peak luxury, the first thing they walked into was the living room. The tiny slug was bouncing all over the sofa because it felt so soft, and Iris thought the whole thing was totally mind-blowing. Sorara takes the guys on a tour of the base, showing off the chill dining room, a fully stocked kitchen, and 2 massive bedrooms up on the 2nd floor. The bathroom even has this super fancy tub that looks incredibly comfy and totally sets a chill vibe. Ko was hyped to call this luxury carriage home, while Slug shouted that it was basically a house on wheels. He leaned in and asked how the owner was even going to move that carriage, and Iris chimed in saying it looked so heavy, they'd probably need 10 horses just to pull it. Right as the boys hopped out of the carriage, a stone monster popped up in front of them, greeted the owner, and started yelling for its next command. He gave a friendly wave back and ordered the massive stone golem to march right up to the fancy carriage waiting outside. The magic ring asked Ku if he wanted to fuse the crazy Galem destroyer with a massive crew, and after thinking for a second, he totally agreed. Then something insane happened as the massive golem started fusing with the ship, swallowing it whole to transform into a giant, terrifyingly epic new form. This massive destroyer golem fused with the crew to become a total beast, supercharging its magic core to a whole new level. This fancy carriage was absolutely zooming, getting the boys to their destination way faster than any normal ride ever could. After mapping things out with Scarlet's crew, they decided to take their sweet time getting to the coastal fort so they could explore every town along the way. With only 5 days left before they headed out, Comet spent his time hanging out with everyone who had his back. He scrubbed the whole house until it was spotless. He stocked up on all his gear and food. He finished all that work in just 3 days. Then, Ku got a mysterious letter. The letter was actually from Relic, saying that the land's top leader, Count Billion, was getting treated in a city called Server, and since Relic was super worried, he wanted to go check. He was getting seriously worried because the ruler didn't lift a finger when the riots broke out and that massive black dragon showed up. One line out. Preserve the sequence exactly. Do not use any line breaks or new lines in your response. Usually, this means if the input has 3 lines, the output. Relic sent a letter to hype up Coruscant about his big award in the capital, and he's even planning to show up for the ceremony. Ku figured the doctor was actually in Surrey, and now he's hyped that he might finally meet him face to face to get some real answers. The next day, he heads out to grab some travel guides and books for the road, but right there in the middle of the bookshelves, he suddenly spots millions of people. Suddenly, something cuts her off and she stumbles. She trips over something she didn't even see and loses her balance. A second later, the pile of books in her arms slams onto the floor. He quickly grabs her books and asks if she's okay, leaving Melia totally stunned as she stares at him and gasps his name. The girl thanked Kyle for helping her get those books home and kept begging him to let her pay him back somehow. He was just paying her back for being kind earlier, but he never expected Melia to be such a massive bookworm. She'd feel totally guilty about not being able to pay him back, so he lets her stay in his debt and asks if she's hitting up the big award ceremony. Ku promised to pay him back once they hit the capital by showing him the best food spots and cool sights, and he was totally down to let her handle all the plans. Melia got the message and started plotting her payback, warning him he'd seriously regret giving her time to prep since she was already itching for their next round. He thought it over and realized that whatever was about to go down in the capital was going to be absolutely wild. When the day finally came for them to head out, the whole town gathered to cheer them on, and Melia even stepped up to give them a beautiful bouquet of roses for good luck. The golem asked if they were ready to roll, and after a confident nod from his master, the two of them marched right out of Onin City to find their next big adventure. As the group kept moving, Sarara tagged along with a massive grin thanks to Iris's gift, which finally meant Ku wouldn't mistake him for a random wild slime anymore. Slime gave the massive golem a super friendly wave and asked what kind of name a cool guy like him actually had. The golem just stood there looking lost, repeating the question to make sure he heard it right. Suddenly, Kus realized he'd totally forgotten to give his giant stone buddy a name. The whole group. After finally naming their massive golem slayer and getting all geared up, the crew headed out with big smiles, aiming right for the country's loud and busy capital. Today the crew is hitting up Tao, a town that's super famous for its insane meat and the best beef you've ever seen. He ended up on Meat Street, a spot totally packed with meat restaurants, and realized it had been forever since he just sat back and chilled with a book. Once Ku joined the real world, he was slammed with work every single day, making those quiet, peaceful times feel like nothing but a total dream. His slug buddy finally poked him awake, and he saw the whole crew already standing at the massive gates of the ancient city of Tool, totally hyped to start their next big adventure. The moment the crew stepped inside Two City, Sararu was blown away by the massive crowd waiting for them, even if the whole place felt totally chaotic. Maybe a monster just hit the city, because a knight suddenly stops Ku to ask if he's the Dragon Slayer, and he just gives a confident nod. Suddenly, a total stranger just collapses right in front of the young adventurers. He starts begging them to save his city, and you can tell things are getting really serious. The heroes knew right then that while chilling at a table, our hero meets a guy who says sorry for bothering him and asks for help, and it turns out he's actually the big boss of the Adventurers Guild, Popolo. The young hero demanded to know exactly what was going down in the town of Two, so Popolo let out a long sigh and finally spilled the truth about everything. This insane S-plus class monster called Trent the Devil just showed up in the Northwest Plains, and now everyone is totally losing their minds. If this thing goes wild, it can wreck a city or two in just a few hours. It heals so fast that it's basically impossible to stop. For now, Popolo has hired. It all happened so fast that the adventurers couldn't get the people to safety, or even put together a team to fight the monster. This guy knew all about Kusama's insane skills and begged him to destroy the monster, so the boy agreed. But only if he got some answers first. Our hero finally took down the Black Dragon, But he definitely didn't do it alone since Iris had his back. Suru even confirmed that she used the dragon god's shield to block those deadly flames and keep her master safe. Even though things were looking crazy, this guy actually asked two young heroes to save the city, making them the only ones who could stop a total disaster for the people of Tue. Slug asks why the guys are hanging out on top of the carriage. Iris and Ku say they just wanted a better view, and the girl thanks the boy for what he said back at the leader's office. He admitted he was just trying to help Iris make friends, but she shut him down, insisting that being the protector was her job and her job alone. While traveling, Ko spots a massive ancient tree and realizes it's the legendary giant the guildmaster told him about. It's actually the terrifying Trent Devil, a giant monster that looks just like a normal tree but hides some seriously scary power. The boys notice massive chains locking them down, and Iris explains it's a high-level holy spell called Heavenly Chains, meant to trap the toughest enemies. She explains that almost no one has the magic to hold back a monster this scary. Whoever did it must be a total pro with a ton of experience. The guy adds that it's probably out of nowhere. The tiny slug watching everything points out something terrifying. Those massive chains holding the beast back are literally snapping and falling apart. The giant's chains finally shattered and crumbled, letting the beast crawl out while the heroes watched its every move, totally on edge. Right by the massive trunk of that creepy monster tree, a tiny girl is using every bit of her magic to hold the beast back, while its giant roots shake the ground trying to break loose. Her mana finally hit 0 and she collapsed right there. Kugaev yelled that saving the priest was the main priority. The golem got the hint and started moving way faster. Thinking fast, the boy zoomed in like a flash and snatched the girl from the monster tree's roots just before she was crushed to death. It turns out she wasn't some powerful adult sorceress like we thought, but just a regular girl who showed insane courage when her life was on the line. A massive branch from the monster tree slams right into the girl's magic shield, making it shake and crack as it barely holds on against the hit. She instantly pops the legendary Dragon God Barrier EX, trapping the whole squad inside a super strong energy dome that blocks every single hit from that crazy tree monster. While that monster tree kept slamming against the magic shield, Ku thanked Iris as the slime bulked up and promised to keep the little girl safe. The hero was totally stunned, but he quickly snapped out of it and told his slime buddy to carry the girl over to a comfy bed. Back at the fight, Ku asks Iris how she's doing, and she says she feels way better than when they fought the Black Dragon, but she still needs a serious break. The kid told his Gollum servant to back away from the tree monster, and the whole squad scrambled back to put some safe distance between them and that scary thing. The young fighter decided it was time to strike, pulling out his glowing sword and charging ahead to give that tree a deadly gift with every ounce of strength he had. Our hero fires off his insane S+ rank move, the War God's Slash. He lets loose all that energy stored up in his blade. The attack zips straight for the hero lands a perfect strike on the right root, making the tree let out a massive scream that echoes everywhere, and the pain is so crazy that even the big boss starts shaking from a distance. That busted root looked like it was gone for good, but it suddenly started healing right in front of them, and the heroes were totally blown away by how fast this monster could regenerate. Iris saw those roots creeping toward them and shouted a warning that Ku caught instantly. Our guy activates the ring and shouts a command, forcing those creepy branches back to keep the whole squad safe. He locked in and focused his fire magic into a glowing arrow, sending a massive blast of energy flying right at his target. After letting the fire arrow fly, the hero stands totally still and watches it rip through the air like a flaming beam, leaving a trail of smoke as it zooms straight for the target. She was totally blown away by how cool the flight looked and asked him how long he'd been using magic, but he just admitted he actually started pretty recent. She told him that mastering fire magic would make everything a total breeze, but he just wanted to know why fire was so special and what would actually change. She says there are 2 ways to take down Trent the Devil, and the first is a massive slugfest where you just keep hitting him until his healing factor finally gives out. Ku could use God of War S to circle around and slice from a distance, but that would take way too long, so he asked for the second option instead. Option 2 is a quick fire magic showdown, because if he torches the Trent Devil's head, the monster won't have any time to heal. Iris suggests the second plan and he's totally down, because the longer this fight drags on, the more likely things will go sideways, so they need to end it right now. Ku was trying to find the tree's head, but then he just decided to imagine he was burning the whole thing down. That tree was freaking huge, so he had to get a closer look. He pulled out a flight potion he'd whipped up using those flying mushrooms they grabbed earlier. This was his chance to... Iris asks if he's gonna chug that and attack the monster from the air, and he's like, "Yup, I'm doing it right now." She grabbed his hand to stop him from rushing in, looked him right in the eyes, and told him she was jumping into the fight with him to face every danger by his side. She needs to play defense while Coop handles the heavy hitting. This is definitely the best move for both of them. He tells her to hold on tight and chugs the potion. Then the ring glows. Iris started feeling super anxious as her friend's vibe totally shifted, but even when they asked if she was scared, she knew they'd win because her loyal partner was right by her side. He could tell she really put all her faith in him. He knew he had to step up and show her he was worth it. He told Desk to back off and find a safe spot. To land that fire arrow, our hero had to fly way closer to the massive tree, because he needed to be at just the right distance for his shot to actually hit. The tree starts stumbling around like it knows what's coming, trying to run or fight back, which totally freaks out the enemy and makes them dive into hiding. The living tree jumps straight into the fight, but Iris quickly throws up a shield to protect herself and the guy, blocking every single hit from the massive monster. The massive tree's branches went totally wild, smashing over and over against the clear dome Iris put up to keep them safe. Iris looked dead serious and ordered Kui to fire up the ring right now, telling him to blast the Trenta Devil's head with all his magic to end this fight for good. Iris throws up a glowing shield to keep them safe while Cal puts everything he's got into a massive fire arrow that blasts toward the enemy. The squad barely held their ground against that giant plant monster, dodging a non-stop barrage of roots and branches while jumping between cover to launch their counterattacks. Suddenly, the kid spots something totally crazy happening. Thick smoke starts pouring out from the top of the massive wooden beast. The whole monster starts wobbling like it's about to tip over. It leans. The saved priestess was finally knocked out in a comfy bed after that brutal day of testing. Iris stayed right by her side the whole time. She was just so relieved her friend actually made it. Iris was totally geeking out over her research and explained exactly where that symbol came from. It turns out the mark belongs to the hardcore followers of the God of War. And as it happens, the crest actually looked exactly like Q's sword, and right after they noticed, Gollum told his master they'd finally reached the northern gate where the real action was about to go down. The man thanked the boys for their help and told them to go get some sleep. He then asked Ku if he was really a dragon slayer. Ku didn't hesitate and told him that these guys were basically a suicide squad meant to be bait, but Ku and Iris totally wrecked everyone without needing any help at all. The guy tells them to stop apologizing because they're just hyped the city is safe, and then out of nowhere, he tells his soldiers to bring a bunch of cows right to the Adventurers Guild. The guy headed straight to the guild to tell the boss, Popolo, how he totally crushed the Devil Trent, and now the leader is sending word of his big win straight to headquarters. Popolo admits that the city of Tu would have been totally erased if Ku hadn't stepped in, and the guildmaster is so hyped and grateful that he can't even find the words to thank him for saving everyone. The guy totally refused to take all the credit, telling everyone that he couldn't have won without his squad by his side, and he made it clear that the priestess only survived because his friends showed up right in the nick of time to help out. The old sage was super impressed by how humble the guy was, seeing him as a total legend who's as strong and honest as a young bull, always ready to give up his own comfort to help everyone else. The crew ended up on Maya's Naya Street and hit up a spot called Pukli Kot, where they ordered some herb-crusted beefsteak and some homemade wine to wash it all down. Iris was loving her juicy meal and some great wine, but then she overheard the next table saying everyone thought it was game over once Trent the Devil showed up. They kept talking about him, and even though it felt totally awkward, he finally felt like he'd actually done something big. After a killer dinner, they headed to the Moon Viewing Pavilion Hotel to crash for the night before hitting the streets of Tu tomorrow. The next day, Soraro is still totally passed out, so Cal uses his free time before meeting Iris to craft something awesome from that Devil Trent they took down yesterday. He hasn't figured out a recipe yet, so he's just going to use all those scraps for alchemy instead. He snatched the Yggdrasil branch right out of his magic portal. He realized this was that legendary world tree from the myths, which is a total game changer. He decided. Sarara hyped up his master with a cheerful good morning and got right to work, leaving Ku super curious as he watched to see how this slime helper business actually goes down. Ku felt super awkward watching his little slug buddy roll around and admire himself in the mirror while bragging about how perfectly round he looked today. After saying their hellos, the guys headed to the south side of the city called Tao, which looks totally normal until you find this massive, quiet field full of cows. The round slug showed the animals to his master, and Ku explained that the north and south were like two totally different worlds, which is perfect because in the old language, Tu means. They tried their hand at shearing sheep and eating farm cheese, but as he walked through the fields, everyone realized he was a dragon slayer, and immediately threw a massive party. Standing on the fortress wall, Iris told Kyle the farmers were super thankful for his help, and he was honestly shocked that everyone was giving him such a warm welcome. She explained how this farm used to be a total desert, and without him, it would have turned back into a dead wasteland. So she's really thankful because he's done such an amazing... He didn't just save the city, he saved all their hard-earned progress too. They headed back to the guild, but the priestess was already gone. She left a letter. According to the letter, she's actually a traveling priest. She was just passing through Tao when she heard the Trent Devil appeared and volunteered to take him out. She also wrote that they totally saved her. She's definitely gonna pay them back for this later. The guys were actually busy on their own journey right then. If they somehow meet up again soon, it would be a total miracle. They hit up a meat shop for a sandwich, but the boy is totally shocked it doesn't have bread, while Iris can't believe he even expected any, and after Slug grabs one. Tomorrow the crew is heading straight for Suriere. This place is totally famous for its awesome hot springs. Hot springs are basically the heart and soul of Japan. Everyone is super hyped to finally check. The next day, a massive crowd showed up to see them off, and the crew felt amazing knowing all those people were there just to say thanks. Iris and Sarara are totally knocked out and cozying up, while the boys just stand there looking lost and having zero clue what to do next. The sun was shining and the weather was literally perfect, so our guy just had to get outside, breathe in that fresh air, and get totally hyped for the day. He suddenly spotted a little girl standing right there, so he immediately turned to his stone golem and ordered it to stop, and the giant golem listened perfectly and froze right in its tracks. She turned to Cole and thanked him for everything he'd done, but he just looked her right in the eyes and asked how long she'd been waiting for him. This girl could actually see the future in her dreams. One day she has a vision that changes everything. She sees a carriage rolling right past her, and sitting right there inside is Ku. She chased her dream because she felt like ignoring it was just wrong. Kyle figured she was just being nice, which was weird because she's usually super blunt. Then, she turned around to face the girl stops right in front of Ku and asks if he has the transmigrator skill, which totally catches him off guard. His heart starts pounding and his brain is a mess, so The dream showed her this question was a massive deal, but the guy was totally lost trying to explain a word that made no sense, and the more he talked, the more everyone stressed out because they still had zero answers. She's actually a maiden from the war god's temple, and since he's a transmigrator, she has a massive secret to tell him, and a special item she needs to hand over. Hearing those words made him think of Iris right away, since she also had a secret mission and special powers, and it made him wonder if Lily was in the exact same boat. Lily explains that this super rare priestess skill only wakes up in someone once every few hundred years, and it lets her tap into the power of any item named after the god of war. Iris says it's just like the dragon god's priestess, and the slime already knows the secret because an ancient scholar told him that when a dragon god priestess and a war god priestess team up, something totally legendary happens. Who asked the question again, just hoping for one more tiny detail. But the slug just blinked its eyes, looking totally guilty, making it clear it was completely out of info and had absolutely nothing left to say. The god of war's priestess had two major missions, and the first was to give a legendary magic bow to a mysterious hero who just arrived from another world. The guy was totally shocked she could hide a giant bow in her clothes. It turns out her outfit was actually magical. Sarada watched it all happen and told her she was incredible. That compliment made. He looked at the bow and realized the god of war's emblem actually shows the three legendary weapons holding his power. The magic blade Gram, the bow of Yggdrasil, and the nameless Holy. Lily hands them one of the three legendary weapons, the bow of Eager Seal. It's a sealed-up bow made for crushing disasters. The guy is totally obsessed with that cool name. I told them to hold up since that bow only comes out for a ceremony once every 50 years, and she's freaking out that it's way too dangerous to carry around. Lily was cleared to carry this weapon for her mission, and she's stoked she gave the bow to Kosan since that's one goal checked off. But she's still got a second mission. Next, the priestess had to track down the legendary magic sword Gram. She asked the guy if he knew where it was hidden. He totally shocked her by pulling out the blade and showing her The priestess felt a massive wave of magic surging right out of the sword. She was totally blown away when she realized just how much energy was packed inside that thing. She'd never felt. Her dream flashed back to the moment she handed over the bow of Yggdrasil, and when she asked where he found it, he said he grabbed it from the Anin dungeon and asked if he could keep it. She told him that Gram is actually a sacred weapon, and it's her job to keep it safe, but she's letting him hang on to the sword for now. Iris asked if her future seeing powers were actually legit, and the girl said yeah, she's used them since she was a kid. Then thanked Iris for the answer and said she totally reminds. He realized the girl's sister, Facilia, was actually hiding two massive powers, the rare foresight skill and her legendary role as the priestess of the dragon god. Suraora asks what the plan is, and the priestess explains that since her missions are done, she's got to protect the transmigrator. Then Lily asks to join the squad and the boys are totally down for it. The heroes give the new girl a massive welcome and invite her to join the squad, which totally touches her heart as she thanks them for being so cool. The clock finally hit exactly 12 noon. The crew all grabbed a seat at the table to relax. Everyone started talking at once, hyping up the wild stories and memories from their long trip. They still had a ton of stuff left over from yesterday. It was finally time to get dinner started. Everyone jumped in to help out in the kitchen. They were making beef stew, cheese omelets. Srirara was a total pro in the kitchen just like everyone expected. Iris was also a natural, and since Lily was a complete newbie, Ku decided they should all just cook together. The guy tells the girl to try and crack the egg, but she totally fails no matter how hard she tries. So Ku steps in and tells her it's actually super easy if she just chills out. The egg completely shattered, and he realized his cooking skills didn't mean a thing if she'd never even tried it before. So he stepped in to show her exactly how much force to use. Ku helped her crush the task, making everyone cheer, and then he and Iris kept cooking dinner together, just vibing and enjoying the cozy atmosphere. Dinner was finally served, and as everyone sat down to dig in, Iris realized that Ko's cooking was absolute fire as usual. She said that since everyone in Anon City loved his cooking, his own restaurant would be a massive success, and Lily totally agreed because she'd never eaten anything this good in her entire life. She was totally geeking out about how much she loves to cook. Ku tried to give her seconds, but she turned him down super politely. You could tell right away that she was just really shy. He told her she better eat up because she's still growing and needs her strength. She totally brightened up and immediately asked for a second plate. After finishing their massive meal, the whole squad, Lily was totally focused on her missions in the sacred lands, so she never did stuff like that, and even apologized for being so clueless about normal life. Ku told her she didn't need to apologize and that he actually respected her serious vibe, which made her super happy even though she still sounded a bit unsure when she asked if he really meant it. She explained that her parents died in a plague when she was way too young to remember, but because she had that priestess of the god of war skill, the cult took her in and Iris and Kus promised to help her have the best time ever since she's so young, and Sorara jumped in, yelling that she had to play with him right now. The crew was getting tossed around and the passengers were totally panicking, so the stone golem slammed the transport to a halt to save them from the massive earthquake. Cole catches Sorara and quickly checks to see if she's okay, and luckily they stopped right in the middle of the plane without anyone getting hurt. She was super worried the ancient crumbling Zarda bridge would just give out, because if it did, they'd have to take a massive detour that would waste 2 whole days. The guys were supposed to spend 4 days and 3 nights in Surrey. They just wanted to kick back and hit the hot springs. But man, life had other plans for them, and the stone pillar sent an urgent warning to its master that the Zarda bridge was in serious trouble and had been completely smashed to pieces. Everyone stared at the wrecked bridge wondering if it was an emergency, and the girl warned them that moving forward was going to be a total nightmare. The hero warned that the river was moving way too fast to cross, so the girl asked if they could just use a flying potion instead. He said he'd already thought of that but wasn't sure about the rest of the crew, until someone cut him off with a way better plan. The monster tells him he can just build the bridge himself, and since he's way stronger now, he figures it's worth a shot even if he's not sure the crafting recipe will actually pop up. The hero slammed his hands onto the bridge with a huge smirk as a magic circle glowed under him, letting him unleash his creation powers. He says the new Zard bridge was actually built using scraps from the old one and 800 branches from the Devil's End. This bridge is basically immortal and works like a total safe zone, and while the blonde girl had heard of the reincarnated guy, she never expected him to be this wild, but her friend just shrugged. The monster looked at the hero and called him a literal god, but he just shrugged and said it was all pure skill and he was totally fine with that. The bridge was finally back in one piece, so they skipped the long detour and rolled into Surrey right as the sun was going down. Over at the Surrey guard post, a knight thanked the hero for fixing the bridge and promised to tell Maynard so he could get a sweet reward. Our guy admits this is a way bigger deal than he thought, and the guard explains that this bridge is basically the main hub for everyone moving through the area. Ku says Meard is getting patched up, and when the knight asks how he knows, Ku reveals he actually got a letter about it. The hero said it was from a noble he knew, who told him the count was getting treated in the city, but to keep the whole thing a total secret. Ku nods that he gets it, and the boy thanks him for the help, apologizing for keeping him up so late and telling them they're welcome back any time. Knight says since they're staying for 4 days, they should definitely hit the hot springs, especially since the city is throwing a massive 300th anniversary festival tomorrow. Our main guy said things were getting super busy. The creature yelled that there was smoke everywhere, The girl said it felt like a massive day was coming, and the guy told her this festival was He says this city was built on top of ancient ruins 300 years ago. But the creature claims there was another city there 4,000 years back. And the wild part is that the underground machine for the hot springs is still totally working. Our hero says he totally gets how hot springs work, and the slime claims it's a super genius that needs to be protected. The guy says it's finally time to eat, and while he's hyped to see the special, it turns out to be Hotep's white pot. The hero says the food is super rich, and the girl is already hooked after just one spoonful. The blonde girl closed her eyes, loving how warm it felt, and the slime actually moaned back like it totally agreed. She explained that every shop has its own way of making the dish, so they decided to hit up more spots tomorrow. But after crushing 6 massive plates, our heroes finally headed back to the hotel. He was just chilling in the hot springs with the slime, eyes closed and feeling awesome, which was exactly what he expected. He figured everyone else was feeling the same way, and just wanted them to have the best time ever at tomorrow's festival. The next day, they're just strolling down the street when Lily spots a ton of hot pot, so the guy shows her the huge menu and asks if anything looks good to her. She apologized for being so out of it, so the hero asked what was on her mind, and after a nervous second, she finally started telling him everything. Lily said she saw the future in a dream, but it was all in pieces, so everyone started asking her what she actually saw. The girl mentioned they were playing trumpets right out in public, which totally caught the guy off guard, and Lily was right there agreeing that it was super weird. Suddenly, the scene shifts to them walking by a fountain with a glowing stick, and while the hero realizes it's a branch of Yggdrasil, he has no recipes, and no. Lily points out that the scene is shifting again, and now all the heroes are ditching Surrey to head northwest. The guy asks her again since the 4 portons are in the total opposite direction where it's just mountains and trees. But she tells him she's just as clueless because she's never had a dream this messed up in her entire life. The hero asks if her dreams are usually this clear. She says they always were, and then the slime jumps in to say she already knows. The monster explained how an old scholar warned him that foresight has its limits, especially since powerful people change their destiny so much that their future is a total mystery. The girl tells him he's straight up nuts, saying she didn't even notice him start flying and blasting fire. Our MC asks blithely if those future visions are guaranteed to happen, and the blonde girl confirms that everything she sees is definitely going down. She asked if he was actually going to play the trumpet. The slime thought that was super cool, but Ko couldn't even remember if he'd ever played before or if he'd totally suck at it. One of the heroes suggests they head back to the present to hit up the festival and start by trying out all the new food. They were totally hyped about the food, raving over the beef soup, the far from Tuesday, the special dessert, the fruit hotep, and the red wine. The brunette girl loved the soup, and Lily thought her dessert was awesome, but even though the slime felt great at first, she suddenly got super sick out of nowhere. The girl checked to see if she was all right. The monster started rambling about salmon, and since the guy was totally out of options, they gave him a detox potion to fix him up. The slime says she's totally fine now. The hero notices her crazy fast metabolism, and then a knight tells him he should go try his luck at a lottery. Ku shouted that he'd seen this before, an ancient game called Numbers, where you win the second you get a full line in any direction. The first person to finish a line scores a luxury cruise from Fort Port to the royal capital, while second place gets a musical trumpet. The MC and the girl looked up in total shock as she told them they'd see if that dream really comes true, and Lily shouted that it sounded awesome. The clown hyped up the crowd, asking if they were having a blast, and then announced that the morning's big event, the ancient lottery, was finally kicking off. Who spotted someone waving and asked if it was that same guard from before, and the girl told him he was probably right. The clown shouts that he's still spinning the drum and yells out the first number, 29, but Lily is totally bummed because she doesn't have it. The MC's ticket was totally scorched, and he bragged that he did the whole thing on his own. The guard just laughed and asked if they were really that shocked after seeing his insane focus skill. The clown says the numbers can swap or get rewritten at any moment, so don't quit now. Just enjoy the game until the very end. Once the bingo game hits the halfway point, the room splits into 2 vibes. The people hyped for a win, and the ones who are totally bored and ready to quit. But our hero thinks this whole mess. The next number called out was 61, which meant Lily's, and the guy just kept on racking up more numbers until the clown asked if their boards were almost full, and told them to shout, "Knock." He said he totally did. The guard asked if he was going to win that stolen prize pipe. Our guy just shrugged and said, "Who knows?" And then some girls started screaming that they had the exact. Kelly turns to the hero and says it's been way too long, and even though he asks if she's just there for a tour, she's actually a legit adventurer herself. The slime could tell right away that these guys were actually friends. Then the clown announced that the final showdown was about to start. The next number they pulled was a 6, 18. He was just one number away from winning with 88, but he already knew he was destined to come in second. Out of nowhere, the number on the hero's ticket starts changing on. Our hero stepped onto the stage, and the clown was totally shocked to see two winners at the same time, so he gave them both a huge shout-out. The guard tells them there's only one prize for both winners, and they have to pick who gets it. And while the girl is totally frozen, the boy just smirks because he knows exactly what's going on. Our hero asks for the second-place pipe, and even though the girl is totally shocked, he tells her they just need to reach the capital first, and she can keep the prize for herself. The clown told her Kel was taking home the top prize, and she was so hyped she had to ask if it was for real. Kel thanked the kid a ton. Then the guard shouted that the second-place prize was up next, telling the hero to reach out his hand as the countdown began. One girl started whining that she totally would have won if there were more prizes, and another girl chimed in saying she was super close too. Kel asked if she'd just caused a huge mess, feeling super guilty for forcing him into something he didn't want, and making everything totally awkward. The hero said everything was chill, and reminded them that they were hitting up the kingdom's capital first. The guy admitted he didn't even know how to play the trumpet, so everyone stared at the hero while Ku started his performance. The slime calls this song Susanna's Dream, and apparently, an ancient musician once said it's almost impossible to play. The girls were totally vibing with the music and started saying there's nothing this hero can't do. Kelsa had to go grab lunch with her grandma, so she said her goodbyes and told the crew she'd catch them later. This old man walks up and introduces himself as Randolph and Mayard, the lord of these lands, telling our hero it's a huge honor to finally meet the legendary Dragon Slayer. The old man said he'd heard all about the hero's legendary wins, from slaying the Black Dragon and the Devil Ent to fixing the Zard Bridge. But then he started coughing, and the Count apologized and explained that after a massive flood hit the north 4 months ago, he's been trying to recover at the Surya Hot Springs, but he's still not feeling 100% yet. He called the hero a total savior of the land. He told them to hit him up if they ever run into trouble again. His family has a rule about always paying people back for their help. The old man starts coughing so hard he actually blacks out, making our hero totally freak out as he asks if he's okay. This creepy dark energy started leaking out of the man and rushed at the guy, but he managed to block it just in time. A notification pops up about a crazy high-level curse, but his status nullifier kicks in and shuts it down instantly. Lily's gut told her a monster was behind the curse, so Iris panicked and asked if it was contagious or if Ku was in danger. But the guy just promised everything was totally fine. The knight sprints over, begging the guy to snap out of it, but everyone screams at him to stay back because it's way too risky, leaving our hero totally clueless about what's. This is the curse of the Black Death, a super deadly plague that spreads like crazy, and since it could wreck the whole area, you've got to use the Yggdrasil branch. The girl suddenly lets out a sigh and says this branch looks exactly like the one she saw in her dream. He points out that the black fog around the man finally vanished, and when Lilia asks if the curse is gone, the hero says it's just a temporary fix that won't spread to anyone else for now. Someone in the room cried out that they couldn't stand seeing the Count in such a state, while the boy remembered leaving the square with a guard to head straight for the Shadow Queen's pavilion. The knight asked what was going on with the Count, and after a quick pause, the hero realized it was finally time to explain everything. Kao reveals that the Count was actually hit by the Black Death curse. He explains that the curse only triggers when he's in the middle of a massive crowd. He also mentioned that this curse is actually a special power from a monster called an Elder Lich. The knight says this all went down about 4 months ago during that massive great flood in the north. Count Mayard managed to scare the skeleton monster off, but he couldn't actually take it down. Right before he vanished, the skeleton pointed straight at the Count and blurted out something in a weird language no human could understand. The guard said that was the moment the Black Death curse finally struck the Count, and if he'd just realized the truth sooner, he could have totally avoided this disaster. Lily walks up to the MC and says she's a total pro at light magic, asking if she can try to break that curse for him. He dared her to give it a shot, so she promised to go all out and started chanting the spell. The Count gritted his teeth in frustration while Lily totally lost it, screaming that there was no way her cleansing light actually failed. When they asked about her magic, she told them it's the ultimate light spell that can break literally any curse, but even this crazy power has its limits. He saw the analysis was finally finished, and now he had every single detail on the Black Death curse. Our hero started piecing it all together, and when Lily asked what he found, he told her they just had to take out the source by crushing the Elder Lich who cast the curse. She asked where the Elder Lich was, but the guard said he'd been missing since the Great Flood, and Ku knew they were in big trouble. Our main guy figured it was finally time to fire up that automap skill. He checked the map and realized the Elder Lich was hiding out right near Mount Triss. The knight shouted that he finally knew where the skeleton was hiding, while the old man shifted his hand and turned to face our hero. The count says that massive flood 4 months ago basically wiped out his family's private guards. Now the Adventurers Guild is in charge of keeping the peace, and it's going to take... He realized his heir was still way too young, and if he died right there, the whole territory would spiral into total chaos. The count knew he was asking for a lot, but he begged Ku to help him crush the Elder Lich. The guard dropped to his knees and begged to join the request, especially since the branch's power is fading and the curse is about to spread everywhere. He told the council he was down, realizing he couldn't just brush this problem off like it was nothing. Iris looked at the guy and asked if this was what Lily predicted, and after checking off everything that happened, Ku agreed she was totally right. One girl tells her she's totally amazing, but she just says thanks and admits it's all because of her insane skills. Iris pointed out that Lily sounds exactly like the hero, and while Ku used to talk that way too, he hasn't done it in a while. But the guy just says he says that even if people have the same powers, everyone uses them differently, and for Lily, her skills and how she masters them are just a part of who she is. The crew hopped out of the carriage and hiked through the woods until they reached the mountain, where they found themselves staring up at a massive stone wall. He checks the map and realizes their goal is hidden right inside the rock, while Iris grins and says the place smells like home, and the hero totally agrees. Ko finds the door, and when the girl asks how he knew, he tells her they saw the same thing in Annan, but she just says it was super obvious to her. The boy says this mess is way different from what happened in Annan, and suddenly Lily shouts that this mark is actually a calamity emblem. She says the cult of disaster is an ancient religion from way back, and just like the name suggests, these people actually worshipped massive catastrophes as their gods. 4,000 years ago, ancient people tried everything to survive disasters, but the disaster cult kept shutting them down every single time. The kid figured Old Man Che had seriously gross taste to live in a dump like this, and he might have even been a follower of some creepy disaster cult. Our guy didn't care who he was up against since the goal never changed, so he had Slough smash the lock and they all headed inside. A bit later, the squad finds another door where the guy reads a sign saying they're at Underground Worship Center number 3, and the slime is just totally impressed by Kui. He asks what this place is, and the creature tells him it's one of the biggest churches for the cult of disaster. Slala says they built these sketchy towers all over the world where crazy followers would gather to worship the literal apocalypse. They even built a massive maze on the way to the temple, and it's packed with traps meant to finish off anyone who breaks the rules or tries to escape during the ritual. The guy asks what kind of creepy rituals they were doing, but the girl says she doesn't even want to imagine it, and while the hero says the auto map will keep them from getting lost, Ku warned them that clearing this maze would take a while, and the girls were totally cool with it. Our hero knew that if that seal branch weakened, the Black Death Curse would trigger, so they didn't have a single second to lose. Iris suggests using the route finder, and the guy thinks it's a great move, but he's got to fix one thing first. A massive wooden hammer suddenly pops up on the hero's shoulder, and the girls are like, "Wait, what are you even planning to do with that?" Why'd he tell the girls to just sit back? This item has a super specific buff, so it was basically trash to him until right now. He points out the stairs to the second floor are dead center in the maze, but the girl warns not to let him know about the hammer he's gonna use. The kid just decks the wall, and Iris notices Ku is actually having a blast, while Slime points out that his brain definitely doesn't work like a normal person's. The crew finally makes it to the stairs, shaving off a ton of time. The first room on the second floor was a total death trap, with a ceiling that drops on your head and floor tiles that trigger traps the second you step on them. He figured they just had to stay off the tiles, so they popped a flight potion and zoomed straight into the next room. Next up is the magic laser room, a long, skinny hallway packed with 10 Oricleum cannons on each side for a total of 20 blasters. He had this totally insane look in his eyes, and after wrecking every single gun, he headed straight into the next room. The crew finally reached the last room on the second floor, but one of them pointed out that the air felt super heavy and totally creepy. The slime warns that the whole room is trapped under a massive curse, but if they pump magic into the crystal ball in the center, it'll shut down for a bit. This dude said someone had to keep pumping magic into the crystal ball, but they'd have to sacrifice their life to do it. The three of them watched him like hawks, but he just scowled and told them their trap was straight-up garbage. Lily started insisting she'd be the victim, and Iris said the exact same thing, which actually made our main guy smile. Kato told them to stay put, and even though the girl was worried, he told her not to sweat it because Lily remembered he was the one who crushed the Black Death Curse back in Syria. He confirmed it's true, saying that curses can't even touch a guy who's been reincarnated like him. Rebirth blocks every single ranked disease, making this guy the absolute best choice for the job. The hero cheered that it worked, and the slime bragged about sucking up so much magic that the ball totally crumbled, making Lily ask how much power he actually had. He thought they cleared the second floor and the map says they're on the third, but something is definitely wrong. He noticed the map looked just like a dungeon and asked the slime if there were any traps, but even though she said it seemed clear, she still had a really bad vibe about the place. Our hero tells the squad to stay put while he charges in first. The girl shouts at him to watch his back and stay safe. Out of nowhere, a pack of skeletons jumps them. He flashed a huge grin and shouted that he actually pulled it off, and right then, all those missing skeletons started showing up again. He realized the immortals were finally here and it was bad news, but with the clock ticking, Ku was totally lost on what to do next. Lily snatches her staff, trapping all those skeletons in a magic circle as she starts charging up a massive spell. She says her holy lightning skill is the absolute highest level of purification in all of light magic. She said this power can totally delete monsters or undead, completely ignoring their healing abilities and finishing them off for good. He figured light magic would totally wreck the undead, since that's basically the golden rule in every game, anime, and even this world. The hero decided he and Iris would hold the front line to buy time while Lily blasted the monsters with her magic, and since the girls were totally down with the plan, they were ready to give it their all. Slime asks what her deal is, so Ku tells her to stay in the back and keep watch, and she promises her glasses will help her catch every little detail. We finally finished scanning the undead data, so now we can use the Jaegersil branches to force a total cleanup. He wondered if just touching the undead with an Yggdrasil branch would actually purify them, but he didn't expect it to work so well since it was still just a raw piece of wood. The skeletons squared up, so the hero told everyone to give it a shot and let Iris know the right side was all hers. He triggered the forced cleanse, and the skeleton's shadow started to fade away into nothing. Ku looks over at Iris, and she tells him to finish the guy off while she blocks the skeleton with her shield. Slime gave the heroes major props for their epic teamwork, while Lily hyped up the branch's insane power and promised to sing even faster as the girls started chatting away. So the gang takes the shortcut straight to the stairs, wrecking every skeleton soldier that tries to stop them. The guy said this hallway leads straight to the final room, and even though they didn't hit any traps, Iris mentioned her skin was totally crawling. Lily says she's sensing some seriously evil vibes. Slime warns that a massive horde of undead could be right around the corner, and the hero knows these monsters definitely have a trap waiting for them. Ku huddled everyone up to explain his plan. He'd charged straight in while the girls counted to 5 and followed, but I had to ask if that was just a basic frontal attack. Iris asks if he's going to use godly super speed to catch them off guard, and he gives her a quick nod before jumping straight into the fight. After they wrecked the monsters, the guy gave Lily some major props, and the girl announced they finally cleared the 3rd floor, while the slime cheered that they were almost at the end and just needed one last push. This Elder Lich is hiding at the very bottom of the maze, all the way down on the 4th floor. The Elder Lich is an undead monster that can literally heal from anything, and since that holy light failed, even holy lightning might not be enough to take it down. He's thinking about using the Yggdrasil branch to force a purification, but he has no clue if it'll actually work on the Elder Lich. Every type of undead has its own special way to be wiped out, but to purify an Elder Lich, you need a full 60 seconds to get the ritual ready, which our hero realized. The system says they can speed things up by using a skill on the Elder Lich or hitting him with holy lightning, and since the boy doesn't want to drag the fight out, he tells his team to remember that and start planning their move. Our hero spots the Elder Lich appearing out of nowhere. He thinks to himself that if this was a video game, a boss cutscene would definitely be playing. Right then, Lilia jumps into, "This dude thought a sneak attack was the secret to winning, but one hit just wasn't gonna cut it." The old Lich starts charging up a spell, and these dark ribbons of magic blast from his hands straight at our heroes. The system finally finishes its scan, dropping the purification time to only 24 seconds, so the hero shouts that he just needs one more jump. The kid couldn't stop thinking about the undead that spawned after the disaster. He saw a list of words that totally blew his mind and made him want to know everything. Now, the whole process only. Iris could tell things were going south fast. Lily said she was picking up some seriously evil vibes, and our hero was just like, "Wait, what's even happening?" He's only got 3 seconds left to finish the scan before everything goes sideways, so he shoots a look at the girl, and she instantly gets the signal. The team powers up the branch, triggering a forced purification to absolutely wreck that undead Elder Lich. Once the Elder Lich was toast, the system pinged that the Black Death Curse was gone, and he'd officially hit level 99, which he was totally hyped about. The girls started celebrating, hyped that the whole thing was finally over. The hero told them they only won because their teamwork was absolutely perfect. They all threw their fists up to show they were officially a squad. The guy announced the Count's curse was finally broken, and Iris was just relieved that Surya didn't end up as a total ghost town. This underground room was actually the old Lich's secret base, and they asked her what was wrong. She tells him the path is loaded with traps and can't believe he actually made it back, while he just figures he used some crazy space-time magic to escape. Something about these skill descriptions feels totally off to our hero, so he asks the Elder Lich what it's even up to. Kyle's mind raced back to that shady priest who worships the glutton dragon, and he wondered if they'd just crashed his ritual, so he quickly told his system to scan the magic circle. Iris was loving how beautiful and warm it felt, while Lily just straight up asked the MC what he was even doing. Ku said he was checking out the magic circle because the Elder Lich was right in the middle of some creepy ritual. Slime wasn't about to let her master do all the work alone, and she was ready to show him that she had some serious skills too. The creature said he hacked straight into the altar system and rewrote the ownership rights himself. He knew that's exactly what you'd get from a magic beast born in an ancient world, and now his analysis was finally done. They asked Ku if he was doing okay, and even though he said he was fine, he ended up uncovering some wild new info about the rituals they did there. The Calamity cult first summoned a bunch of skeleton soldiers, then they actually sacrificed their own lives to bring out the terrifying Elder Lich. The skeleton soldiers were there to guard the temple, while the Elder Lich was busy running the third ritual, the ritual of gluttony. This Elder Lich has been popping up every few hundred years to harvest souls with the Black Death, all for a ritual he's been prepping for 4,000 years straight. He explains that the Elder Lich from the legends is the same monster they just wrecked. The girl asks if this means they finally got justice for all the victims. But the heroes tell her He also said it looks like this ritual was actually meant to summon a monster called the Great Calamity. The girls kept asking, so Lily mentioned a disaster way worse than anything in history, and wondered if this was finally the legendary Great Disaster. He confirmed it for real. The crazy gluttony dragon from the ritual is way stronger than the new one. The girls were totally freaked out, asking him again if this new disaster was really even stronger than the Black Dragon. Iris warns that if a monster like that reaches the surface, it's going to be a total disaster. So Lily asks if they actually stopped the ritual, but the hero just admits Everyone in the city was supposed to be wiped out as a snack for a hungry dragon, but they actually pulled through and stopped it. Out of nowhere, the whole place started shaking like crazy, just like the earthquake from yesterday, and Lily said she was starting to feel really sick. A magic circle glows right next to the guy and a sword pops out, and the girl is totally shocked when a dragon shield appears too. The system suddenly pings that the glutton dragon is being reborn, and the guy yells that a monster is heading right for them. Lily said she felt a presence so terrifying it felt like her soul was being crushed. He asked if she was okay, and after she said she was ready to head back up, Slala walked over as he revealed he'd officially made himself the new owner of the item. Iris saw it happen in a total flash and figured that's exactly how the Elder Lich was teleporting in and out. Lily grabbed her friend's attention and pointed to the side, where the guy's jaw dropped as he spotted a weird sphere flying through the air. He stepped up to block the girls, telling them he honestly thought they'd already shut down the gluttony ritual. The squad heard this super high-pitched singing cry, and right there in front of them was a massive beast that looked just like a dragon. The slime asked him about it, but he just admitted he wasn't even sure if he could still be called a dragon. He says all that hard work wasn't for nothing, but the real question is, can they actually take this guy down? He knew if he didn't act, the whole place would be wiped off the map, so he had to go all out. She turned to him and yelled that the city was in huge trouble, so he reached out his hand and screamed, summoning a total robot man out of nowhere. The hero yells for everyone to jump on so they can chase the monster at max speed. The robot's totally down, but Slala's just left wondering what he's supposed to do. He looked at the slime, chugged the potion, and promised he was going to step up and stop that dragon. He said he needed to get his attention, so he swung his massive sword. The dragon just stood there frozen, and the guy actually started thinking that stopping it was going to be a breeze. Those dragon tentacles were a total nightmare to deal with, and even though he still had 80% of his mana left, he was saving 20% of it just to pull off. He realized the dragon's fluids were straight up deadly, and knew he couldn't get anywhere near them. The dragon was already totally beat up, so our guy decided to finish it off from a safe distance. Ku knew he had to end this fast because he didn't want this fight dragging on forever. He's dumping half of his remaining magic straight into one big skill. The guy was totally shocked when his hit went straight through the dragon, and he started panicking because he thought his attack didn't do anything at all. He was down to his last 10% of magic, so he couldn't afford to just spam his powers anymore. He looked up in total shock and realized he was completely frozen, but he had no idea why. He went tumbling headfirst across the ground and smacked his head, looking away in total shock. He had no clue what was happening, but it felt like he was drowning in a gross swamp and his magic was totally tapped out. This guy thought the fight was totally rigged because the dragon was phasing through all his moves while landing every single hit on him, and he had no clue what was going on. The scan on that hungry dragon's insane power is finally finished, and the system just dropped a huge theory about it. The glutton dragon can mess with the space around him to pull off wild tricks, like turning invisible and phasing right through enemy attacks. Our hero knew he was in huge trouble, realizing he didn't stand a chance as long as that dragon had all that insane power. He was glad the dragon's power actually had a limit, but he started swearing when the beast kept charging straight for the city. He really wanted to save the city, but he was totally out of magic and couldn't win. So he had to decide right now if he was going to run away and leave everyone behind. He still had a massive stash of items and skills he hadn't even touched yet, and there was no way he was quitting now. Just like that legendary fight against the Black Dragon, his level is smashing past the limit and it just keeps going up. The guy and his weapons start glowing as the Yggdrasil seal breaks, and now he's finally allowed to use 20% of his power. The hero stared at the weapon with total confusion, asking if this thing could actually take down the dragon. The system told him that if he wanted to use the Drowsil bow, he was going to need some serious magic power. He figured he'd have to team up with Lily, right as someone asked him if he was even doing okay. Ko played it off like he was totally fine and told him to quit stalling and chase that dragon down. Iris points out that the hero is literally glowing. He just says a ton of stuff went down, and the slime thinks he looks totally awesome and shiny. Ku looks over at Lily, and she tells him she totally knows how to use it since she's seen it in her visions a million times since she was little. He said this would make things way easier, and asked her to share some magic, while she thanked him for everything he'd done. With tears streaming down her face, she actually smiled and told him she'd give her life for him in a heartbeat. He tells her he's not after her life, just her magic, leaving her totally stunned and speechless. She started apologizing like crazy, saying it was all a big misunderstanding and begging him to just forget the whole thing. He told her they'd talk details later and asked her to pull back the bow with him, and as she did, she realized this was exactly like the dream she had. She thanks him, and when he says they have to get this done, she agrees, and they both start hauling the boat together. The deadly arrow killer is finally on the scene, and he's launching a total execution to take down the great disaster. He turns to Iris, and she tells him he can give her the power to create a shield against the dragon's attacks. The calamity killer arrow just straight up canceled out the dragon's space warping power. The tables have finally turned for our heroes, and they just need to keep the pressure on as the hero's magic gets even crazier. He triggers his disaster summoning skill, which lets him bring back and control any disaster he's already beaten. He thrust his hand into the air and started screaming a spell to bring the dragon under his control. Iris thought her eyes were playing tricks on her when she saw a massive black dragon, but the MC just casually told her he summoned it with magic. The big day is finally here, and he's going head-to-head with that same terrifying disaster dragon for an epic rematch. The hero started shining like crazy and began hyping up the black dragon to crush the gluttonous dragon. She says that sight is always going to be terrifying, and he warns that a dragon like that would turn any glutton into straight-up ash. The system started checking off all the crazy stuff he did, like being reborn, having insane magic, and totally wrecking the black dragon. Lily says the magic sword has a mind of its own and it's basically begging him to use it. He held the blade right against his face and started chanting, wiping out the disaster with a blast of insane heat. His face was covered in bruises, but he just flashed a big smile and bragged that he was the one who won. He just hit level 108, and since he's finally over level 100, the system rewarded him with a brand new skill. Our guy finally hit triple digits, and now his destruction power is giving his magic a massive temporary boost. This opens up a ton of epic new ways for him to fight, so he asks if he can finally call out the glutton dragon. The plan to hijack the glutton dragon totally flopped because its main body was outside the boundary, making the skill completely useless. He's asking about the limits since full support almost always works, but now he's totally lost access to his space manipulation powers. This power lets him warp space to teleport, turn invisible, and trap his enemies, which is honestly a huge advantage for him. Our MC told everyone he finally crushed the glutton dragon, but when they asked how it felt to beat his second big boss, he just said he was totally exhausted and wanted to go home. Iris asked about those weird sparks, but he was totally clueless, so Lilia stepped up with an idea and asked if he'd hear her out. Legends say the god of war's souls glow gold, so maybe these lights are actually the people's sacrifice to that hungry dragon. Slala totally agreed, and since the hero crushed the Elder Lich to stop the ritual, the freed souls gave him all their power as a massive thank you for saving them. The Count threw his arms out with a huge grin, relieved his crew was safe, and told everyone to take a seat. The old man said the whole city would have been toast without them, and he was honestly so grateful for everything they did. Our hero said he just did what he had to do and asked if he could break down everything that happened. He told them how he stopped the Elder Lich's ritual in the dungeon, but the Glutton Dragon still ended up coming back to life anyway. As for taking down that revived Glutton Dragon, he knows he's just super lucky things didn't end in a total disaster. The Count told them a ton of people would have died without their help, so he's never forgetting what they did, and said they better hit up his family if they ever need a favor. The next morning they scored a massive bonus from the Count, and headed straight to the guild to handle the rest of their business. The guy finally breathed a sigh of relief, saying that fixing all this drama was way harder than fighting the dragon, while Lily admitted she was totally wiped out and Slala checked to see if she was. They run into Kelly, who tells them she was actually heading to their hotel to find them. The hero asks who she's looking for, and she says it's him, since They ask if she baked the cake herself, and she says her family owns a bakery where she and her aunt made it, promising it's delicious. Now the slime is super hyped to dig in. Kel heard he took out yet another dragon and asked if this was just pure insanity, or if he was becoming way too overpowered. Iris calls it pure madness since he's about to slay the third dragon, but the girl just shrugs and says he could easily crush 4, 5, or even 6 of them, which the guy was definitely not happy to hear. Cal told them to stop messing around, saying she'd delivered the cake and was finally heading home. Slala was starving, so the hero suggested heading back to the hotel, and Iris totally agreed, saying they should just treat today like a holiday. The heroes absolutely loved the cake, closing their eyes in pure joy while the girls kept hyping up how amazing it tasted. Iris was totally shocked they actually pulled off a win, but Lily pointed out they'd be toast if the main character hadn't stepped in to save them. Ku says he never could have pulled this off alone, and that he only won because the girls had his back. Iris was just happy to help, and Lily told her not to even worry about it, but she was still thinking back to that crazy moment she offered to sacrifice her life. He asked her what she meant by that, and even though she was totally flustered, she still gave him an answer. He asked if it was tough to talk about, but she said it was fine since she didn't even really get it herself. Slala decided it was time to spill the beans, since old legends say that just talking to someone is the best way to clear your head. They told her to just open up about her doubts to fix everything, and she finally admitted he was totally right. Lily reminded them that according to the God of War's traditions, his priestess has 2 major missions to pull off. Ku explained the mission was to give the Yggdrasil bow to the reincarnated hero and find the magic sword Graham, and the girl was totally down for it. She revealed a secret third mission that isn't in any of the legends, something she saw in a vision when she was just a kid. Once she breaks the seal on that bow, she has to trade her own life just to fire one ultimate world-ending arrow. The kid finally got it, but he didn't actually need to be saved. He just needed a massive boost of magic, leaving Iris wondering if her prediction was totally wrong while Lily just admitted she had no clue. Maybe the future changes for some reason, but she's betting it's all going to go down in the next big fight. Slime starts freaking out and asks if she's going to die, but even though Ku says no way, the girl thanks him and says she's proud to be a priestess of the God of War who's ready to sacrifice everything. When the hero saved her from that scary devil at the Fujiya, she decided she'd literally die for him just to pay him back. He promised that even if her prediction came true, he'd fight until the very end to find a way to save her from being sacrificed, and asked if she was cool with that. She didn't fight it, and she's still 100% committed to her mission. But she also secretly wishes she could just live a long life and travel the world with her friends. She asked if they thought she was being selfish, but they told her no way, and Iris even said it's totally normal to want things for yourself. Slala promised to have her back whenever she needed it, and seeing her friends so fired up to help really hit her in the feels. Lily was totally crashed on the couch while the slime begged for more time to keep eating, and Iris realized she was just like Felice, always trying to carry everyone's burdens. See, she could actually see the future and knew exactly when she was going to die, so she finished all her business and even left a goodbye note. After Felice died, she was totally eaten up by regret, constantly replaying how she could have saved her if she'd just been there. Our MC guessed she was just trying to avoid making the same mistake twice. She told him she was actually comparing Lily to Felice. He said that's totally fine because using your past to. They stood side by side with big smiles as Iris thanked the hero, telling him his words actually made her feel way better. Ko asked Iris a question that totally confused her, wondering if she was on the same secret mission as the priestess where she'd have to give up her life. She thought it was cool, but she had zero clue what it was and was actually being totally for real. He really hoped that was true because he couldn't stand to lose his best friend, so he begged her to never just vanish on him again. She just smiled and told him that getting to hear those words made her feel like the luckiest person alive. Lily sat there hugging Slala and asked if Fort Port was their next stop, and the hero told her yeah, and from there they'd be heading straight to the royal capital. A massive crowd showed up to say goodbye, and it turns out the Count is heading to the royal capital later for the big award ceremony. They took the fastest shortcut they could find, skipping the town entirely. Slala was so pumped to finally get on that ship. Our hero asked if he'd ever been on a boat before. Slala kept excitedly shouting that the boat was gonna rock over and over, and Iris thought it was totally hilarious. Our guy was wide awake in bed, so he decided to mess around and see what his crazy new powers could actually do. Remember that glove that got absolutely wrecked in the fight? Well, it's totally fixed now just from sitting in his inventory. He realizes that any gear he crafts with his skill automatically repairs itself. Our guy was ready to head out, but he really wanted to give his space warping powers a shot first. To pull off those quick space warps, he's got to be able to see exactly where he's landing. He landed on the field and spun around, realizing the range was way bigger than he ever expected. The robot asked if he was taking off, so he just said he was going for a quick stroll, and Des totally got it, wishing him a good one. During the whole trip, the robot has been working non-stop as the driver and night guard for the Grand Saloon. He really wants to give the bot some kind of reward for doing such. He just smirked because he knew that in a crazy fight, saving even a split second is the difference between life and death. Ku was hyped to test out his new ghost powers. He started scanning the area for any monsters to pick a fight with. Suddenly, a weird noise echoed from the trees right in front of him. The monster went totally wild for that black spider glove, but our hero thought it was basically trash. He warps space to stay in a state where he's here but not really, making him totally invincible. This power only lasts 6 seconds, so Ku tries to lock down the space, but something totally catches him off guard. His plans just totally changed, so he has to end this monster right now and whips out his massive sword. Our hero sat down next to the girl to check her over, and while she wasn't actually hurt, he could tell she totally didn't belong in a place like this. He asked if she was okay because if that scorpion actually stung her, she needed help right now. The girl opened her eyes and asked who he was, so Kyle just told her he was a random adventurer passing by and asked if she was doing okay. The girl says she's totally fine and begs him to just run away because this place is way too dangerous. He asked what was up, and the stranger warned him that a white scorpion lived in those woods, and even an A-rank adventurer wouldn't stand a chance. The hero told her not to worry because he'd already taken that guy out. She was completely shocked. She asked him if he was just messing with her. Cow told her he wasn't kidding. He told her to check out the white scorpion claw in his hand, and she totally agreed with him. She says sorry for the weird question and asks if he's the guy from the call, and when he says yeah and asks if they've met, she tells him they haven't. This girl introduces herself to Kurt as Letitia D. Meteor, and it turns out she's a total pro A-rank adventurer. The girl introduces herself as Letitia, and says she's already heard about his epic wins, even though he's still a rookie. But Ku just stays humble, and says he couldn't have done it without his friends. Letitia giggled and said the rumors were right. This guy is way too modest. He actually called the fight delightful, even though that white scorpion is a crazy A+ threat that usually takes 8 A-rank pros to beat. But the hero totally soloed it, even though Letitia was the one actually assigned to research the beast. The guy was totally stumped, wondering how she survived that crazy monster without a single scratch only to suddenly pass out. The vibe was super tense, and even though he felt weird about it, he used his skill on her and realized he'd made a huge mistake. This girl is way beyond anything we've ever seen before. The system starts scanning her to figure out her secrets. Our guy is just standing there, wondering who she actually is. Letitia walks right up and grills him about using his assessment skill, which totally blows his mind because he thought he was being low-key. She explains that she's just really good at feeling people's gazes, but she knows he isn't some creep trying to dig. She walked right up to him and told him she actually wasn't mad about what he did at all. Letitia touched his cheek and told him she wasn't surprised at all, because his eyes didn't show even a single drop of fear. She leaned in so close they were practically touching and asked if she could introduce herself one more time. Letitia flexed her title again, announcing she's a summoned dragon of calamity and the ultimate nightmare for every living thing. He couldn't wrap his brain around this girl being the legendary dragon of disaster, since she looked like a totally normal human, making him wonder if she really was the same beast that wrecked the city. The system tells our hero that even though she looks like a normal girl, she's actually hiding the soul of that legendary stuck-up dragon inside her. He realized she was basically a walking disaster, but she just giggled behind her hand and asked if she'd actually scared him. She promised she wasn't looking for a fight and told them again that she was totally on their side. Our hero asks what she means. She explains that the disaster's whole job is to wreck the world, but she's still not sure if she's actually going to follow the plan. She just turned 17 and is hitting her rebel phase hard, so I'm going to be running a little late. He scowled, wondering if this girl was really any different from the Black Dragon and the Dragon of Gluttony. She said his dad acted totally normal because she kept it a secret that the white scorpion wasn't actually the reason she fainted. Letitia begged to apologize, but when the hero asked why she lied, she just said the reason was actually super simple. If she just blurted out that she was a total disaster, he'd definitely think she was a weirdo, and he totally knew it. Ku asked why she finally showed her face, and she said it sounds crazy, but she feels like they met way back in the past. He told her straight up that they'd never actually met. To him, this was their very first time seeing each other. But as soon as he answered her, this super weird feeling hit. Like she said, massive monsters were spotted all over the place, and that's exactly why she was out in the woods investigating. That white scorpion is a total beast that'll wreck every village nearby if it's not stopped. And while our hero knows he has to act fast, jumping in alone would be a total death wish. She smirked and bragged that she was a walking disaster who wouldn't lose to some basic white dragon. He noticed she'd totally passed out and asked what went down, but she wasn't sure, saying she felt this crazy pressure from another disaster nearby right before everything went black. She noticed the glutton dragon was seriously beat up and wondered what went down, so Ku told her it probably messed itself up using that space manipulation power. She freaked out over his insane power, but he just told her he snatched it, leaving her shocked but totally understanding him. Letitia grabs his left hand and says she can feel a black dragon inside, asking if he can summon it, and the hero is totally shocked she guessed his secret. He said he knew exactly what it meant to be a disaster, and that they had 3 natural enemies: a hero with insane skills, a sage with raw magical talent, and a demon lord who held. She asked if he was a demon lord, and even though he said no, she just straight up asked him again. After getting dropped into a new world, our hero doesn't pick a single path, so he ends up scoring every single cheat skill available. She listed 3 things that can stop a disaster and realized the hero has every single one, asking if that's even possible, while Letitia agreed that Ku is definitely one of a kind. She claps her hands and tells him she's super interested, asking if she can tag along on his adventure. She told him the proposal was super sudden and he could totally back out if he felt weird. But when he didn't say no, she was so shocked she had to ask if he was actually for. Ku mentioned it was getting way too late to leave her alone in the mountains, so she thanked him and agreed to his terms. Letitia asked if he knew she was a total disaster, but he just said she was a disaster who wasn't even planning to fight him. She decided she'd only throw hands at villains and monsters, and he told her that was totally cool with him, but when she started laughing, he got confused and asked what was so funny. She told him he's got a huge heart, but Ku got all embarrassed and said she's totally overhyping him. The system finally said she could tag along, but the MC totally spaced out and forgot all about her. He was crafting a counter-weapon that was just as strong or even better than the Eager Seal bow, and the kid was totally hyped to hear it. Lily only has enough magic to use 20% of the bow's power, because if he pushes it to 100%, it'll literally cost him his life. If he can just craft some OP gear, he'll solve everything and never have to see that heartbroken look on Lily's face again. Letitia starts explaining she was born in a freezing, snowy land way up north across the ocean. She was the second princess and honestly just thought she was a totally normal person at first. Deep down, on her 12th birthday, she ate poisoned cookies and spent 3 days straight fighting for her life. But that's when she finally remembered exactly who she was. She unleashed her calamity powers to destroy the poison and barely clawed her way back from the dead. Then she dragged the second prince to court for the poisoning and stripped him of his right to the... He asked how a second princess like her could just ditch her kingdom and fly away so easily. She said it's usually impossible, but every disaster has its own crazy powers, and she just used one. He asked what that power was and if she was even allowed to talk about. Letitia reveals her secret power is called dominance, which is basically straight-up brainwashing where she pumps dragon energy into anything she touches to turn them into her personal puppets. She walked right up to the tree, pressed her hand against the trunk, and started chanting the spell to make all the leaves fall off. Leaves piled up on her as he reached out to help. But when she asked if he was scared of her powers, he just said she wouldn't have warned him if she actually planned to use them. She asked him one more time to be sure, and he totally agreed that her domination skills should be way stronger than the reincarnation protection the hero, sage, and demon lord have, so they decided to give it a shot. The system flagged the arrogant dragon factor and blocked the rebirth effect, making the girl realize her powers were completely useless against the hero. He tried to talk about his hobbies, but he realized he wasn't even sure if he had any left, because while he was a massive gamer in college, he hasn't touched. Ku admitted he only read books because he was bored, so the girl laughed and told him he didn't have to force an answer. Then she shared her love for painting and poetry. This guy had zero artistic taste, so he couldn't really tell if it was any good. But the girl's poem actually hit home and started bringing back old memories. She told, he woke up and stretched, only to find Letitia right there, wishing him a good morning with a massive, happy smile on her face. Our hero asks if she slept okay, and she tells him the room was so cozy she slept perfectly, even waking up early just to watch him sleep. He acted like his face was just totally average. Letitia wasn't having it though, because she thought he was actually a really great guy. She never expected a legendary dragon slayer to look. He looked away and muttered that at least he isn't having nightmares after everything that went down. Lily and Slala walk in to say hi, but they stop dead in their tracks the second they see the girl. The slime introduces himself as an assistant and asks for her name, so she tells him and decides to tag along on his big adventure. Lily introduces herself and drops a total bombshell. She saw her in a vision last night, so she already knows her true identity. Letitia pointed out her God of War priestess uniform, and Lily agreed that her ability to see the future proved she was the real deal. The girl asks him if he knows Letitia, and when he says yeah, the disaster girl tells him not to worry because she already exposed her true identity. Slala says he's dying to know her secrets too, but Letitia is busy gushing over how cute the slime is, and asks to introduce herself with a poem. She finished up and scanned the boys super closely, while Lily just stared at her totally confused. Slala was freaking out because this stranger was a total disaster, and even though the guy warned they were in deep trouble, he was shocked that anyone could actually get the girl's poems since she didn't. Letitia says she'd way rather build stuff than break it, but then Iris walks in, says good morning, and is shocked everyone's already up, until she spots the girl and completely freezes. Iris turns to the girl, and Letitia mentions it's been forever since they last met, leaving the guy totally shocked that they already knew each other. Our main guy was ready to ask another question, but Lily's stomach growled so loud it totally cut him off. She felt super bad and apologized for the interruption, but then Letitia's eyes totally lit up when she saw her favorite food, and when the guy told her there was plenty more where that came from, she was like, bet, Ku asks Iris if she knows the girl, and she explains they were actually on the same squad to hunt down a deadly monster. She says it's been a whole year, and honestly her entire vibe has completely changed since then. Iris was totally shocked and asked if she'd really changed, though she kind of felt like she had. Letitia told her it wasn't just a small change, it was actually huge. He realized that after everything she'd been through, she really had grown into a better person. Iris looked at him, looked down, and said she was happy, while Letitia totally picked up on her friend's true feelings. Calamity bragged that she finally figured out who changed the girl, but Iris just told her to shut her mouth. Iris asks if she's always this brave, and Letitia says totally, because even though she's a legendary and cocky dragon, the only thing that actually scares her is putting on. The girl says she heard something totally wild, but the other one admits she kept it a secret since she's actually a disaster dragon who can just get the real story from the main character. Once the story wrapped up, I asked the MC if he was for real about trusting her, and since he said yes, she told him she was totally down because she believed in him and his choices. Letitia asked if it was really okay since she might end up tricking the main guy. The girl said it was totally fine because he's way too sharp to fall for it. Iris promised that if things ever get this crazy again, she's totally got his back because they're friends. He totally agreed with her, and they shared a super sweet look, while Letitia whispered to Lily that even though there were 3 of them at first, he got sidelined in a heartbeat, so she says her spot is actually pretty cool, and she's just gonna stay quiet and watch the heroes do their thing. They were on track to hit Fort Port by noon, so everyone just decided to chill and do their own thing until they arrived. Our guy spent all his time crafting new gear, and he actually pulled off making 2 of them. He guessed the Black Spider and White Scorpion were actually related, and Sala was hyped by how sharp he was, confirming they're basically brothers just like the stories in Dragon Legends. Since they're basically cousins, Black Spiders and White Scorpions have been throwing down since the beginning of time to see who's the real boss, just like how humans have been fighting for ages. He thinks about how Jallarhan is the horn from Norse myths that signals the end of the world, but blowing it now won't actually start the apocalypse or anything like that. Suddenly, a girl shouts from the other room that she's finally done painting and begs everyone to come check out her masterpiece. The MC tells her that her art is straight up amazing, and Letitia is super honored to get such a huge compliment. The coolest part of the sketch is the main character's side profile. She totally nailed that super chill look on his face. Iris realized his insane confidence is a perfect match for Koi's. Slava asked if Letitia could master painting, and she was totally down, even combining her art with her insane power of disaster. He felt like using disaster powers like this was a total waste, and that they're way more useful when he uses them to help instead of just wrecking everything. Desk told the main guy to look outside, so everyone poked their heads out and saw a totally epic view of the sea. Slala was shocked by the sparkling water while Lily caught the salty breeze, and since it had been forever since our guy visited the ocean, He was finally feeling amazing. He took a good look and saw the ocean stretching all the way to the horizon with absolutely nothing in his way. They finally get to the port expecting a massive crowd, but there isn't a single ship in sight, and he instantly knows something is dead wrong. Death shouted that a small quake just hit, so he's hitting the pause button for a bit to keep things safe. Letitia noticed the ground was shaking way more than usual, and since it was happening every 3 days now, she knew something super bad was about to happen. They finally pulled into the port, and after the guy thanked him for being so patient, our hero said thanks back and told him to get some rest. A young guy walks up to ask who he is and says things are going south in the city, so even though they're totally wiped from their trip, he tells them they've got to hit up. The heroes stared at the ruined city in total shock, seeing that every single ship in the harbor had been blown to pieces. Iris said there's no way a monster did this, and the boy figured it was actually pirates who gave it their all. Our MC was totally stunned when the guy explained that an early morning attack had completely trashed the entire port. A single pirate ship pulled this off using a massive ancient battleship with a front cannon that totally wiped out the port. The pirates sent a messenger demanding cash, food, and girls, threatening to burn the whole city to the ground if they didn't pay up, or if even one person tried to escape. Our MC calls those pirates total trash, because if that ancient weapon gets into the wrong hands, a ton of people are going to suffer. Letitia says this is totally unforgivable, because strong bullies shouldn't just crush the weak for their own selfish reasons, and she's going to make sure they pay. She shouted that they had to crush those pirates for justice, and our main guy was 100% on board with the plan. His whole squad had that same fire in their eyes, and they all swore they were doing this together. As he walked through the city, everyone's eyes were on him because they knew he was the Dragon Slayer. Everyone was gossiping about how he'd already crushed a ton of monsters, and they knew that with him on their side, they could totally take down the pirates. Iris noticed the whole vibe of the guild totally flipped the second the MC walked in. Ku just played it cool and said he didn't do anything. Letitia could totally see how awkward She asked if they were on her side, and they all agreed that the main character is usually just super shy. Ku felt super awkward with everyone staring at him, and he realized Slala was actually really sharp. The pirate messenger is chilling in the cafeteria waiting for an answer, and he's totally pigging out on all the snacks. The heroes were absolutely fuming at what he did. They didn't have any other choice, though. If they didn't do it this way, things would have gotten way worse. The messenger warned that if anyone messes with him, he'll radio his squad and they'll launch a massive attack right away. He knew he was in deep trouble, but a sudden cry for help caught his ear, so he instantly cranked up his hearing skill to find out where it was coming from. Wait, did someone hear a guy and a girl in that room? She was literally begging for help, and our hero was totally fuming. He knew he couldn't just look away, so he told the group to hold on while he went to handle it. They crept up to the door and heard noises inside, so Letitia and her squad decided to jump in and help together. She said he's the type who can't just ignore someone crying for help. Our MC told her she looked exactly like a hero from the legends. She felt totally honored to hear something that the girl is crying her eyes out when she spots the heroes and begs them to help her. The pirate warns them to stay out of his way and mind their own business. He suddenly recognizes Ko. The pirate introduces himself and totally loses it when he realizes he's been forgotten. But our hero doesn't even care because his only mission is saving the girl. He decided to test out a new item, a glove that basically shuts down everyone else's powers. The pirate crashed to the ground and asked if she was okay, and she thanked him for saving her life. Letitia was super bummed that she didn't even get to lift a finger, but the MC promised he'd use her powers next time, and she was totally down for it. She's scared her battle hype will keep her up all night, and if she stays this wired, a total disaster is about to go down. Back at the Adventurers Guild, the heroes were getting major props for stepping up to protect a super important worker. This guy was actually the big boss of the city's Adventurers Guild. He introduced himself and got straight to the point. He admitted he was the one who totally trashed the deal with. Our hero asks what he means, and the guy explains that the pirate ship is actually a terrifying ancient weapon that would burn the whole city to the ground, even if every single adventurer teamed up to stop it. But having the Dragon Slayer there might actually change everything. The guards told him the heroes were coming before noon, so he just sat there acting like he was making a deal while he waited. That the girl they saved is totally sure they can take down the pirates if the heroes help out. Jess already knows all about Kuzi's legendary wins, and now they're begging him to. He said he got it and wanted the full scoop, so they explained that according to the messenger, those pirates were actually former members of the Mercenary Guild. Our MC thinks back to Annan, where those mercenaries tried to raid the city but got chased off by Dust, even though they totally could have been pirates. He explains that pirates are usually just people with nowhere left to go, and even those runaway mercenaries are joining the crew now. Our hero has no clue where they scored that ancient weapon, but he's not letting some reckless mercenaries keep it, so he asks if they've tracked down every single pirate yet. Jess apologized for being stuck dealing with a fire, but Ko was totally cool with it, and suggested they just grill the guy who was knocked out instead. Letitia said she knew exactly how to make this guy talk and immediately used her skill on him. Our hero was totally blown away by her skills, and when she told him to handle the rest, he was all in. He touched the pirate and a massive electric shock surged through him, sending sparks flying everywhere. You wake up screaming your head off, totally lost as to what's happening and why everyone is crowding around him. He starts swinging his legs and smacks into a flower pot, sending it crashing right down on him. Our main guy asks if he's doing okay, but the pirate tells him to shut up, yelling that he's just a messenger and he's definitely not getting away with this. The pirate finally figured out who he was dealing with. He told him straight up that he hadn't forgotten their past. Ku just stood there completely confused about what this guy was even talking about. The messenger was totally fuming, yelling that if he hadn't helped that old man, they never would have been caught for ditching their escort mission. Our hero guessed the guy was a mercenary, but his memory was a bit fuzzy, so the pirate smirked and revealed his boss was a rank B pro named Dox, asking if that name rang a bell. Ku says maybe, and the messenger starts screaming that if he finds out the hero is in Fortport, he's calling off the deal to attack immediately, leaving the whole city in ruins while the kid swore he'd never let this slide and promised to wipe out those pirates, demanding the messenger spill every secret he had. The pirate was fuming that he was being threatened and didn't want to listen, but he totally folded and agreed right away. This dude swore he'd do exactly what he was told and spill all the secrets himself. He had no clue why his body was moving on its own, but that's the irony. When you use your power to boss everyone else around, you eventually end up being the one getting played. Iris wondered how they learned to pilot these things, but the MC explained that these ships work totally differently than modern ones. Slala says these ancient ships are totally epic, featuring built-in training gear to teach you the controls and a smart AI to help you out. Letitia figured an ancient civilization would have everything ready for her, but she was totally wrong about things being easy. He warned everyone that if these fell into the wrong hands, it'd be a total disaster since anyone can use them, and this mess is living proof he was right. Lily says a tool isn't really good or bad, it all depends on who's actually using it. The next big shocker was that another pirate squad was actually hiding out on the Western Road. These pirates were totally ready and caught everyone off guard with troops on land. And our hero realized they were just waiting to rob anyone trying to escape the city. Sala said they hit the road from Serdier to Fort Port and didn't see a single pirate, but Ku explained they just took the shorter, safer eastern route. Ira says if the people in Fort Port try to escape to Syria, they're definitely taking the Western Road. He says anyone with a brain would take the safe way, which is exactly why the pirates were only guarding the Western route. The third big reveal is that this pirate crew is huge, with over 200 members total, and about 120 of them packed right onto the ship. Lily points out that 80 enemies are split up. Letitia warns that every single group is a massive threat, and our hero knows they have to take these pirates down right here and now. She warned that if even one of them escapes, it's going to be a total nightmare, so she's making sure she catches every last one. The pirates thanked him for the info and asked for one last favor, but he started to say no right away. The messenger had no idea who would actually help the hero, but then he suddenly stepped up and said he'd do it all himself. The pirates told him to treat them like dogs, so he starts barking like crazy until Slaughter joins in and brags that his bark sounds way more real. Ku demanded the truth about where the magic radio was, and it was hidden right in the messenger's right pocket. Our hero pulls out his communicator and warns the pirate to just chill out, but the second the guy agrees to rest, he gets blasted with another massive shock. Now that they had the full scoop, the team was finally ready to hit back hard. With a massive wave of pirates closing in, the branch manager called up the Fort Port adventurers for some serious backup. They headed out to a big open field to get ready for the next fight, and when the kid asked if they were going to wipe out the other team right away, the hero just shook his head and said, Ku held gripped the sacred Galak Khan and noticed it had the same god of war symbol as Lily. That's the symbol of the supreme god, and legend says the god of war brings the souls of the bravest fighters to his castle in the divine world to get them ready for a massive war. This story is basically like Norse mythology, where the big boss Odin is rounding up fallen warriors in Valhalla to get ready for the world-ending battle of Ragnarok. Lily starts her prayer and says the MC isn't just reincarnated, he's actually the successor to the god of war. Letitia thought that sounded awesome, but our hero has to make a move right now. He starts blasting the trumpet, and the system reveals that since Cool is level 109, he can lead a massive army of 1,090 warriors. Once those summoned warriors showed up, our hero asked them to join the fight and keep the city's people safe.